What do you mean? I was told there would be someone who speaks multiple languages at this meeting, so I made time in my busy schedule for this. What? Multiple languages? I hadn't heard anything about that. Was there some mistake? This was a crucial business meeting for the company's future. And Mr. Irving was presenting in English. Then one of the attendees started speaking in Chinese. We certainly hadn't anticipated Chinese. Was that a lie? You'd do anything to set up this meeting, wouldn't you? This is a matter of trust. There's been a misunderstanding. Like Mr. Irving, I was also panicking. I had to say something. I stood up and raised my voice. Please wait. I'll answer. As expected, all eyes in the room turned to me. There was no turning back now. This was the start of the biggest moment of my life. My name is Jason. I'm 23 years old and currently job hunting. The company I joined as a new graduate prioritized profit over employee well-being, and I had to quit because it ruined my health. Raised in a single-parent household, I couldn't afford to go to college and started working right after high school. I worked hard to repay my mother, who raised me alone, but I had no choice but to leave my job. It's tough to find openings for high school graduates. I wouldn't care about the job if I were alone, but I have someone I want to support. I had another interview today, but when I talked about my academic background and my previous health issues, they gave me a skeptical look. Opening my planner full of interview appointments, I sighed. I have to find a job soon. Making life easier for my mother seemed like a distant dream. I got off at the downtown station and noticed someone crouching against a building wall. Was the person feeling unwell? People glanced over but didn't stop to help. When someone's in trouble, we should help each other. Be a kind person who offers a hand. My mother always told me. Without hesitation, I knelt beside the person. Are you feeling unwell? Should I call an ambulance? She held a handkerchief to her mouth, sweat streaming down her temples. Rudely, I was startled. The woman, slightly older than me, was incredibly beautiful. She was wearing a suit, so she was probably at work. While I stared, she looked at me with narrowed eyes. Yes, I'm fine, just a little dizzy. You don't look fine. Let's sit on that bench. Can you move? I helped her to a bench in the station square. I bought a bottle of water from a nearby vending machine and handed it to her. Are you sure you don't need an ambulance? Yes. This happens often, so I'll be fine after a little rest. This happens often. You shouldn't be outside working like this. What? Please take better care of yourself. I immediately regretted saying that in such a rush. Take care of yourself was something I often told my mother. She worked tirelessly for my sake, neglecting her own health. I want to make sure you have plenty to eat, she used to say, even as she frequently became immobilized from overwork and anemia. Even if we could afford to eat well every day, I wouldn't be happy if my mother, the most important person to me, wasn't healthy. That's why I couldn't stand people who pushed themselves too hard. Well, I guess I can't really talk since I wrecked my own health at my last job. I never expected to be lectured. The woman, looking much better, laughed. I'm sorry for being rude. Rude? You were worried about me, right? Thank you. And for helping me, too. No, I'm just glad you're feeling better. At that moment, my recruitment bag, which I had placed carelessly at the foot of the bench, tipped over. The items inside slid out because I hadn't closed it properly after taking out my wallet. Documents scattered at the woman's feet, and she started picking them up with her delicate hands. Oh, I'm sorry for making you pick those up. It's fine, oh. She seemed to notice something on the documents and turned to me. Are you job hunting? Yes. Well, more like I'm looking for a new job. Really? You look so young, I thought you were a college student. That would be my age. But I only have a high school diploma. My previous company was exploitative. I found myself telling my life story to a complete stranger. Realizing I was talking to someone who had been feeling unwell, I stopped. Oh, I'm sorry. You don't need to hear this, just forget it. Hey. The woman, now much recovered, stood up and grabbed my shoulder. Then she said something completely unexpected. Why don't you come work for my company? What? A few days later, I was standing in front of an office building in a prime location. Nervously, I entered through the automatic doors and called from the designated floor. Hello, this is Irving. Good morning, it's Jason. I've just arrived. Thanks for calling. I'll come get you. Before long, the woman from the other day appeared from behind the reception desk. Her name is Ashley Irving. She is the president of the hotel management company that I am now standing in front of. After helping her at the station, she somehow scouted me and showed me her business card, which left me stunned. The Irving Group is famous for managing hotels. Originally running business hotels, they now cater to various needs, including domestic and international tourists. Why would they want someone like me? It seemed too good to be true. I suspected it might be a scam, but seeing Ms. Irving's face coming out of the main office made me believe, whether I wanted to or not. Hiring someone like me, without significant qualifications and who had to leave a company due to health issues. I'm just grateful to Ms. Irving. I'll work hard for this company. Now, I have not only my mother but also Ms. Irving is someone I owe a great deal to. I vowed to myself that no matter what happens, I won't give up. Yes. Even if the other employees don't think highly of me. A high school graduate hired mid-career? With just high school knowledge, won't it be tough here? Whispers and indirect comments about me being out of place became a daily occurrence. The Irving Group is full of people from prestigious universities. They probably can't believe there's a high school graduate in the same office. In fact, there are no new graduate positions for high school graduates. I only got in because I had work experience and was hired mid-career. But those who enter this company mid-career are usually looking to advance their careers. There wasn't anyone else in my situation. To the other employees, my presence, without impressive academic background or a clear path for career advancement, must have been unwelcome. It's no wonder they think, why someone like him? Jason, were you really too poor to go to college? Well, yes. You should have used scholarships or something. I wanted to start working as soon as possible. That much? Your parents must be terrible to make you go through that. I felt a surge of anger when they talked about my mother, but I was mature enough not to raise my voice. They didn't know anything about my mother, so they could only say that. Don't let it bother you. I told myself that. Even though I faced daily ridicule, this company didn't overwork its employees beyond regulations or deny them time off, unlike my previous job. I was quite fortunate. I couldn't afford to give up just because I couldn't get the understanding of those around me. Still, hiring a high school graduate when the company's value is high, what's Ms. Irving thinking? Well, she's just a temporary president. Perplexed by my senior colleague's disdain, I tilted my head. What do you mean by temporary? Haven't you heard? Until half a year ago, her father was the president. But when he suddenly fell ill, Ms. Irving had to step in as the second president. I see. She's still learning how to run the company and isn't fully fledged as a professional. Who knows when she'll be ousted? That's why she's considered temporary. The seniors laughed heartily among themselves. Ms. Irving hadn't yet built enough trust among the employees to avoid such remarks. It's no surprise. It was an emergency situation. I remembered the first time I met Ms. Irving. Despite clearly feeling unwell, she insisted she was fine. Perhaps her current circumstances and the pressure were making her feel ill. If it were me, I would have been crushed much earlier. I wished for her to find peace, but it didn't seem likely. I wondered if there was anything I could do to help. But, well, it's only a matter of time before she's replaced as president. Another senior who had been listening to our conversation joined in. After all, there's a true candidate for president. The true candidate? Look, it's that manager over there, Daniel. My senior discreetly pointed to a male employee who was chatting amicably with his subordinates. He appeared to be in his early 40s, youthful yet authoritative. Before the previous president stepped down, everyone assumed Daniel would be the next president. His father runs a company too. And he's been groomed for this role since he was young. He's capable and highly trusted. So everyone thought he was a shoo-in for the next president. Daniel can turn any mistake into an opportunity. But because it was so sudden, the president passed the role to his trusted daughter. Or so everyone says. We don't know for sure what the previous president intended, but it seems everyone was convinced that Daniel was the next in line. With their expectations dashed, it's no wonder there's resentment towards Ms. Irving. The fact that they were peers probably adds to it. Ms. Irving, criticized based on unfounded assumptions. I wondered how she felt doing her job. Jason, how's the company? After a month of working there. Ms. Irving called me in. She was likely concerned about me since she had scouted me herself. I've grasped the work content. I'm still getting support from everyone, but no major issues. In reality, I had problems with the human relations, but I kept quiet to avoid causing her unnecessary worry. I didn't want to add to her stress. That's good to hear. Since we also deal with international clients, I was worried about the English aspect. I've been studying English, so it's not much of an issue at the moment. That's good to know. I struggled with English myself, so I was concerned. My mother always encouraged me to study languages. She said it would be essential in the future. Your mother sounds like a remarkable woman. Yes, but I'm having a hard time with business English and specialized terms. Everyone struggles with that at first. It's just a matter of getting used to it, so hang in there. You're one of our employees, after all. Yes. Ms. Irving smiled warmly. You're really uplifting, Jason. Really? Yes. Oh, by the way, I don't think I ever told you why I scouted you. No, you mentioned my personality and enthusiasm, but... Well, what if I said it was because you're my type? What? Her unexpected comment made my voice crack. I've never been popular in my life. No woman had ever shown interest in me before. But I'm an adult. I understood she wasn't serious, right? Well, I have a meeting now, so I'll see you later. Leaving me in a daze, Ms. Irving exited the office. My heart was pounding from her sudden remark. Was she just messing with me? Still, it didn't feel bad. Once I mastered the specialized English, my work started progressing smoothly. I created documents in English and managed to negotiate with international clients successfully. I began to enjoy my work, and despite it being an unfamiliar field, I quickly grew passionate about the industry. Even the senior employees who initially mocked me for being a high school graduate began to recognize my efforts. You're actually pretty capable. Even though I still occasionally heard whispers about being just a high school graduate, it had become much easier to work here compared to when I first joined. Jason, well done. That client is known for being impatient, but thanks to your smooth handling, things are progressing well. I was at a loss for how to respond to the praise from Kevin, the department manager. I had never been praised at my previous job, or it was expected that I could do anything. Should I be happy about it, or should I humbly say, I'm still learning? In situations like this, you should be happy. I heard Ms. Irving's voice and felt a hand on my shoulder. She had suddenly appeared next to me. She was just encouraging her subordinate, but the unexpected touch made me feel my face heat up. Did she not realize how attractive she was? Ms. Irving. You looked like you were scolded when you were being praised, so I was surprised. Oh, I'm sorry. You need to stop apologizing so quickly. You didn't do anything wrong. Yes, thank you. I bowed to both Kevin and Ms. Irving. Kevin scratched his cheek, looking between me and Ms. Irving. Honestly, when you first joined, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I guess I was worrying for nothing. Seems I have a good eye for people, don't I? Indeed, you do. Kevin, who had been with the company longer than Ms. Irving, laughed. He used to be her superior, but now their roles were reversed. He had once told me that it was awkward, but she seemed to be getting used to it. As I watched the two of them, I felt a sharp gaze on me. I turned to see Daniel looking our way. I remembered that Daniel was once considered the next president. I wondered what he thought about it. Was he uninterested, or did he truly want to be president? Well, it wasn't something I should be concerned with. The current president had already been decided. Ms. Irving's efforts were now being recognized by everyone. The position wouldn't change now. I had never spoken directly with Daniel since we were in different departments. So, when he called me one day, I was quite surprised. And it was about an important matter. Jason, I'd like you to help me with a project. Me? I couldn't imagine being able to assist someone from a different department, especially after just a few months. But I wanted to do what I could for Ms. Irving, who had brought me in. I know about you. You were hired through Ms. Irving's connection, right? Despite being called a high school graduate, you've been working hard and producing results. I see you as a strong employee who can perform well under pressure. I'd like you to support the upcoming business negotiation. I was taken aback. I didn't know Daniel had been paying attention to my work. I had occasionally felt like he was glaring at me, but maybe that was just my imagination. Of course, I'd be happy to help in any way I can. Please guide me. I bowed deeply, and Daniel smiled warmly. You're very earnest. All right, let's do this together. He handed me some documents. I was tasked with summarizing the materials for distribution as pamphlets, photographing the presentation, and taking minutes in English during the meeting. I started reviewing the documents to prepare the pamphlets. The clients, the projected costs for the project, the personnel involved, and the countries. The sheer number of details and the scale of this project were unlike anything I'd worked on before. Preparing for this made me incredibly nervous. Besides Daniel and me, Ms. Irving was also attending the meeting. While Daniel would primarily handle the negotiations, Ms. Irving needed to be there as the company's face. The importance of this meeting only heightened my anxiety. However, it was a great opportunity to contribute directly to Ms. Irving's work. I meticulously revised the pamphlets, repeatedly seeking feedback from other employees until they were perfect. The day of the meeting arrived. As I waited in front of the client's office, Ms. Irving arrived, followed shortly by Daniel. However, Daniel looked terribly unwell. His face was pale, his brow furrowed, and he seemed unsteady on his feet. Daniel, are you all right? Daniel, what's wrong? Actually, I've been feeling dizzy and chilly since this morning. I don't have a fever, though. That's serious. You should have called. It's my negotiation, so I couldn't miss it. I can't let you take the lead in this condition. I'll handle the negotiation. You should rest. I'm sorry. Daniel handed over his notes to Ms. Irving. These are my notes. I'm sorry for the trouble. It's no trouble at all. We help each other in times of need. Thank you. Jason, I'm counting on your support. Yes. Seeing Daniel's dedication reminded me of my mother. For his sake, I resolved to give it my all. Daniel waited in a nearby cafe. Ideally, he should have gone home, but he insisted on staying nearby, too worried about the meeting to rest. We have to do our best to put Daniel's mind at ease. The presentation would be in English, but Ms. Irving had won speech contests in school and was quite skilled. She could handle it almost as well as a presentation in Japanese. I was ready to take minutes as Ms. Irving began the negotiation. As the meeting started, Ms. Irving presented clearly and fluently in English. Partway through, someone raised their hand. It was a question. Ms. Irving signaled for them to proceed. But then... What? We were stunned. The question was in Chinese. It's not uncommon for participants to be from different countries. That's why we conducted the meeting in English, the global lingua franca. Why had they suddenly switched to Chinese? Despite her confusion, Ms. Irving asked politely in English if they could repeat the question. The questioner responded with a clearly displeased expression. Excuse me. Ms. Irving? What's going on? The client's representative pressed her. I was told there would be someone who speaks multiple languages at this meeting, so I made time in my busy schedule for this. What? Multiple languages. We hadn't heard anything about that. Daniel hadn't mentioned anything about multiple languages. Was this a mistake? Ms. Irving's reaction only made the client frown even more. Was that a lie? No, we never said. Would you do anything to set up this meeting? This is a matter of trust. There's been a misunderstanding. Like Ms. Irving, I was also panicking. I had to say something. But should a new employee like me step in? Would it cause more problems if I did? After all, I'm just a high school graduate with limited knowledge of the industry. Don't worry, you're one of our employees. Ms. Irving's words echoed in my mind. Yes. I am an employee. My job is to support this negotiation. Please wait. I'm the one responsible. I'll answer your questions. I stood up and raised my voice to stop the questioning of Ms. Irving. As expected, all eyes turned to me. Regarding your question earlier, I responded to the person who had asked in Chinese, using Chinese. The questioner blinked in surprise at first but then nodded as I explained. Then someone else raised their hand. This time, it was in French. I switched to French to answer. However, I struggled with the technical terms. But there was no turning back, so I used gestures and tried my best to explain. After answering that question, the initial client representative leaned in towards me. So, you can do it after all. Well, I apologize, I was planning to handle the Q&A session myself at the end. No worries, sorry for interrupting. Please continue. Thank you. Ms. Irving, I'll take it from here. Yes. I felt bad for leaving Ms. Irving astonished, but there was no time to explain, and I was desperate. I continued the presentation in English, then received a question in German. I guessed the meaning of unfamiliar terms from the context and answered. Switching back to English, I was then asked a question in Indonesian. Then back to English again. My head was spinning. Still, I somehow managed to finish the presentation and bowed. Applause erupted around the room. You are amazing. Honestly, I didn't expect much, but you really can handle multiple languages. Mr. Harris, the client's president, offered his hand for a handshake. As I shook his hand, he asked one final question. Unrelated to business, but how many languages can you speak? I can hold a conversation in 8 languages. Wow. Do you enjoy studying languages? Yes. My mother is a national interpreter. She used to read me picture books from various countries. So every language holds precious memories for me. I wanted to be like my mother, skilled in languages, so I studied hard. I see. With someone as reliable as you, we definitely want to do business with your company. Thank you very much. About an hour later, I left the office building, my legs feeling weak. Hey, Jason, are you okay? I'm sorry, I just lost all my energy. After the meeting, while the presidents discussed the contract, I was bombarded with questions. Numerous employees seemed to be testing my language skills for fun. They were delighted to hear their native languages spoken fluently and took turns asking questions in various languages. Failing here would mean losing the trust we had worked so hard to build. I felt like I was walking on a tightrope, just hoping the contract talks would end soon. Finally, I was free, which brought me to this exhausted state. Although there were no major failures, and I even managed to gain the employees' favor, I was utterly drained. As I headed towards the cafe where Daniel was likely waiting, he appeared in front of me. Daniel, are you feeling okay? Well, more importantly, judging by your state, the negotiation didn't go well, did it? Seeing me so exhausted, Daniel seemed to misunderstand and shrugged his shoulders with disappointment. Jason, despite trusting you to support me, this is the result. Very disappointing. Actually, I thought you were someone Ms. Irving recognized, but it seems I was wrong. As Daniel continued to speak without giving us a chance to explain, both Ms. Irving and I were left behind. He went on. Failing such a significant negotiation, it's also Ms. Irving's fault. Wait, what's going on, Daniel? I'm just stating the facts. This is a matter of your responsibility as you hired him. I'll have to bring this up in the internal meeting. Wait, no. Having the ability to judge people is crucial for a president. Be prepared for your credibility to be questioned. Despite his harsh words, Daniel seemed somewhat pleased. Why was he being so strict? Did you lie about the multiple language skills, Daniel? Ms. Irving looked suspiciously at Daniel. He remained unperturbed. Oh, that? Yes, I might have mentioned it. Securing an appointment with that company is tough, so if it takes a little lie to get it, it's worth it. They didn't believe it either, did they? What? Because of Daniel's lie, we ended up in a tight spot. It's unthinkable to secure an appointment through such means. Did you do this to undermine us? And then pretended to be sick to avoid the negotiation? What? After all, you were the one who insisted on the multiple language condition. Why didn't you tell us? Was this to set a trap for us? No. Yes, that's right. It was an unbelievable accusation, but Daniel admitted it easily. I wanted to test if you could handle such a crisis. A president who can't isn't fit for the role. What are you talking about? This could have caused massive damage. Ms. Irving was right. Our company's reputation was at stake. We narrowly avoided a catastrophe. However, Daniel seemed unfazed, even amused. One company doesn't matter much if I'm president. Besides, it's partly your fault for not handling it better. You should have been more flexible. You seem confused. We never said the negotiation failed. What? Daniel's mouth dropped open. We secured a preliminary contract. That means neither Jason nor I are to blame. The only one in trouble is you. What are you talking about? That's impossible. If you don't believe me, you can check for yourself. Either way, your actions today will be reported in the meeting, so be prepared. Let's go. Ms. Irving pulled my arm. Ignoring Daniel, who was standing still, I left the scene. The next day, it was confirmed that the negotiation went well, and we secured a significant contract. At the same time, Daniel's actions were brought up for discussion. Further investigation revealed that Daniel had been sabotaging his colleagues' work and then taking credit for fixing the issues. Despite being competent from the start, he had resorted to undermining others to gain more recognition. He believed without a doubt that he was the rightful successor to the presidency. When Ms. Irving was appointed, he sought revenge through underhanded means. Once his misdeeds were exposed, Daniel was dismissed. Even in his final moments, he tried to resist, but Ms. Irving firmly addressed him. Now I understand why my father chose me over you. He always said you were capable but couldn't value people. He thought you weren't ready to be president. The previous president had seen through Daniel's character. While I could understand Daniel's frustration at not being recognized for his contributions, achieving success by trampling on others is meaningless. I hoped he would reflect on his mistakes and start anew. After all, I am also someone who changed jobs. After everything settled down, I was summoned to the president's office again. Ms. Irving bowed her head to me. Jason, thank you so much for what you did. We wouldn't be here if you hadn't handled that situation. Please, lift your head. I was just doing my job. Besides, I should be the one thanking you. I'm always grateful to you for taking me in back then. I've always wanted to repay you. You've done more than enough. Your hard-earned language skills and the knowledge you've gained here are the best repayment. You've grown so much in such a short time, and your effort is truly commendable. As you know, I'm a high school graduate, and my family wasn't wealthy. I've learned painfully that life isn't fair. But I've also realized that with enough effort, you can enrich your life. So, I've just been working hard for myself. You're very admirable. So different from me. Ms. Irving gave a sad smile. What are you talking about? You've been working so hard to uplift this company even though you were suddenly appointed president. No. I'm not worthy of such praise. I've used my power for personal gain. What do you mean by that? I brought you into the company for my own personal reasons. That makes me unfit to be president. Now that she mentioned it, she had never clearly explained why she scouted me. For personal reasons. You were kind to me. That's all. I don't quite follow. When we first met, I had been making mistakes since morning, and everyone was criticizing me. Saying I was just here because of my father's connections. I was at my breaking point, thinking I had no allies in the world. But then you, not knowing my situation, were kind to me. I thought, this person could be my ally. So, when I heard you were job hunting, I brought you in forcefully. I just used you. I'm sorry. Ms. Irving held a handkerchief to her eyes. I didn't know how to deal with a crying woman and felt helpless. Used me. I don't see it that way. You gave me confidence. Thanks to you, I had the courage to use the language skills that had never been useful before. I realized my efforts weren't in vain. And, should I say it now? Would it be selfish? Reluctantly, I have courage now. Helping someone I admire as a woman, there's nothing more rewarding than that. What? Oh. I know it's presumptuous of me to say, but no, not at all. Ms. Irving grabs my hand abruptly. I could feel her higher body temperature. At first, I was just using you, but I've come to admire your kindness and hard work, Jason. This seemed too good to be true, but it wasn't just luck. We had been honest and diligent, leading to this result. After this, we visited Ashley's father, the former president, in the hospital. We reported the success of the negotiation and the internal issues to Ashley's father, who had stepped down as president and taken on the role of chairman. And we also told him about our relationship. Someone good for Ashley. I'm relieved. She was only interested in work, and I was worried as her father. Don't say unnecessary things. Their father-daughter interaction was heartwarming. I suddenly thought it would be nice for Ashley to meet my mother someday. From now on, I need to study management to be more helpful to Ashley. My life isn't just about making money anymore. I am fortunate to be able to make efforts to enrich my way of living. They say life is a continuous journey of learning. Nothing learned ever goes to waste. With that lesson in mind, I want to keep learning many things. I went to a drinking party with my college friends, not knowing it was a mixer with beautiful secretaries. When I showed up in my worn-out work clothes, the incredibly beautiful secretary, who looked like a famous actress, showed her disgust. Really? Who wears work clothes to a mixer? How could you come in such dirty clothes? Confused by her sudden criticism, I wondered if she had some grudge against me as she continued to berate me with even harsher words. I came to this exclusive bar where it's hard to get a reservation, and now it feels like it stinks here. Work clothes are dirty, ugly, and smelly. Right? Seriously, who wears work clothes to a drinking party? It's so inappropriate. She looked at me as if I were something filthy. Seeing me hang my head, my handsome friend stepped in to help. Come on, let's all have a drink since we're here together. It's my fault for not telling him it was a mixer. Just let it slide this time, okay? Fine, but you'll make it up to me next time, won't you? She clung suggestively to the handsome pharmaceutical sales rep, looking down on me as she did. However, she had no idea that in the not-too-distant future, this relationship dynamic would reverse, leaving her in tears. My name is Samuel. I work as a researcher at a leading pharmaceutical company in the US. Being a researcher sounds nice, but in my case, it's a discretionary labor system. Our salaries are directly linked to performance evaluations, so it's surprisingly tough. The flexible hours are appealing, but conducting research requires a considerable amount of experiments. I arrived at work early and changed into the company-issued work clothes, then started checking the results of the experiments I set up the previous day and preparing for today's experiments. Good morning, Samuel. You're working hard early again today. Hey, Keith, good morning. I'm just wrapping up an experiment right now. That's great. This means we're getting closer to a new drug. I exchanged greetings with my colleague, Keith, and shared our schedules for the day. Oh, by the way, Samuel, you're definitely coming to the drinking party today, right? Don't forget like you usually do. Got it. I remembered that today was the day for a drinking party with my college friends. I realized I had come from home wearing my usual work clothes. Well, it's just a casual gathering with familiar faces, so it should be fine. Thinking lightly of it, I got back to my experiments. After finally entering the experimental data, I noticed it was well past quitting time. Wow, it's already this late. Time flies every day. As I sighed, my phone rang from the drawer of my desk. Hey, Keith? What's up? Answering the phone casually, I heard his loud voice from the other end. Hey! Where are you? I told you about the drinking party this morning, right? I reminded you again just a while ago. Do you know how many hours have passed since then? It's way past the meeting time. Hurry up. Oh no, I forgot. When I get absorbed in research, I lose track of my surroundings. People often say I'm a genius type on the positive side, but a recluse on the negative side. I'm often told that I'm indifferent to anything outside of research. I had completely forgotten about the drinking party with Keith. I hurried out of the lab and rushed to the designated place. Of course, I was still wearing the work clothes I had put on that morning. When I arrived at the meeting place, I saw my colleague Keith and my college friends lined up. Strangely enough, across from them were some beautiful women. Hey, Samuel. You're late. What? I thought this was just a drinking party with our college friends? One of our friends put his hands together apologetically. Sorry. I forgot to tell Keith that today was actually a mixer. What? To be honest, I'm not good with glamorous women. I've always been focused on research, mostly talking with science-minded women. Science-minded women have logical conversations that don't require reading between the lines. But I know that my blunt personality doesn't go over well with glamorous women. Moreover, today I'm wearing drab work clothes. There's not even a hint of a mixer atmosphere. Seriously, who wears work clothes to a mixer? How could you come in such dirty clothes? As expected, one of the women across from us complained. Looking closely, I realized the complaining woman looked a lot like a world-renowned actress, very beautiful indeed. However, her personality seemed incredibly nasty. I came to this exclusive bar that's hard to get a reservation for, and it feels like it stinks here. Work clothes are dirty, ugly, and smelly. Right? It's pitiful that someone could only come in such clothes to a mixer. As I hung my head at the sudden criticism, thinking here we go again, Keith stepped in to defend me, saying, "Hey, don't say that. Everyone here is involved in pharmaceutical research, so they all work in work clothes." Keith said that to defend me. Oh, I imagined sharp-suited guys because it was supposed to be a mixer with a pharmaceutical company. This is such a letdown. Sensing the atmosphere souring before the mixer even started, I said, "I'm sorry for ruining the mood. I'll excuse myself, so you all enjoy. I didn't know it was a mixer anyway, so let's catch up with the guys another time." Hey, Samuel. Don't say that. Now it sounds like it's my fault. This is the worst. The woman pouted as if implying it was my fault. Come on, let's all have a drink since we're here together. It's my fault for not telling him it was a mixer. Mary, just let it slide this time. Okay? Fine, but you'll make it up to me next time, right? The beautiful woman named Mary replied to my classmate, Liam. Liam, though it's not my place to say, is tall, fit, and fairly handsome. As a successful sales rep at a pharmaceutical company, he's likely caught the attention of many women today as well. Wanting to get a step ahead of the other women, Mary spoke to Liam in a sweet voice. Seeing her completely different expression from the one she showed me, even I thought she was not the one. Then, the woman sitting next to me at the end of the table spoke to me. Hi, I'm Lily. You're Samuel from that famous pharmaceutical company, right? I really admire your company. You keep developing new drugs one after another. It's amazing. I'm so happy to talk to you. Apparently, she had a serious illness as a child, but the drug our company developed helped her recover. That experience made her a passionate fan of our company. But I'm dressed in these unfashionable work clothes in such a stylish place. Doesn't it bother you? Not at all. I wanted to hear about your work and the drugs, so I don't care about the clothes. Actually, the work clothes make you look like a real researcher, which is cool. Her bright smile made her look like an angel to me. She kept bringing up different topics and laughing cheerfully before I had a chance to speak. While all the women at this mixer were secretaries, often seen as haughty, Lily was different, and I found myself moved by her. But just then, the unpleasant voice I heard earlier echoed from our front again. Oh, here comes Lily's goody two-shoes act. It's impressive you can suck up to such a boring guy in work clothes. Well, I don't have the hobby of drinking at a bar with a guy in work clothes, so you two boring people suit each other. Now she started to insult Lily too. Seeing the atmosphere turn cold again, Keith tried to say something, but I stopped him. Feeling sorry for Lily, I told her we'd talk more another time and left the bar. After leaving, I realized I hadn't exchanged contact information with Lily and felt disappointed. The next day, when Keith gently apologized for the previous night and I brought up Lily, he casually said, "Oh, Lily? I got her contact info. Want me to share it?" "Oh, I see." She was a fan of this company, not necessarily interested in me. Keith works here too, so it didn't have to be me. What was I expecting? Realizing this, I felt dejected. Seeing me suddenly lose my energy, Keith looked puzzled. "What's wrong? Are you interested in Lily?" Keith teased me, but honestly, I wasn't in the mood. Well, a budding crush I discovered for the first time had shattered in just one night. No, I need to check the experiment results soon. See you. Hey. Keith started to say something, but I didn't listen and went back to my lab. That's how the world works. Cheerful and likable guys like Keith are preferred over gloomy ones like me. I shifted my focus back to my research. With the new drug research at its final stage, I spent the next month practically living in the lab, barely going home. And finally succeeded in developing the long-awaited new drug. Congratulations! You finally did it. Thank you. I finally feel a weight off my shoulders. It's been a long journey to get here. Yeah, you did great. Thanks. The new drug I developed is a new anti-cancer drug I had dreamed of for years. By targeting only cancer cells in the body, it minimizes the impact on normal cells, reducing the unique side effects of chemotherapy. As a child, I lost my mother to cancer and watched her lose her hair and fight nausea due to the chemotherapy. She often cried, saying she wished she could forego treatment because the suffering was too much. After 2 or 3 rounds of treatment, she lost her vitality and could barely converse. Her immune system weakened to the point where she was confined to a clean room, making it difficult for us to visit her. Samuel, live a long life doing what you love. I'll be heading to heaven a little early, but I'll always be watching over you. In the end, those were my mother's last words before she passed away. Even as a child, I questioned the treatment. Why did she have to suffer so much from the drug meant to cure her illness? Wasn't there a way to target the disease without the pain? These questions sparked my interest in pharmaceuticals. I studied pharmacology and joined this company to reduce the suffering caused by chemotherapy. I dedicated myself to developing anti-cancer drugs with fewer side effects. Fortunately, during the development of this drug, I made several unexpected breakthroughs, leading to treatments for brain tumors and new painkillers. One of these drugs helped Lily overcome her serious illness. In a way, I felt a destined connection with her, but it seemed fate had no romantic plans for me. Then Keith brought up something unexpected. "By the way, did Mary contact you on your phone?" "Wait, Mary? Who's that?" I tilted my head, unfamiliar with the name. Keith made a bitter face. "She's the woman who was rude to you at the mixer." "Oh, her. While she was beautiful, her personality made her someone I didn't want to associate with. Why would she contact me?" "Apparently, she wants to apologize for the terrible things she said to you back then." "No, there's no need for an apology. I just don't want to have anything to do with her ever again." "Yeah, I figured you'd say that, so I refused to give her your contact info," Keith said awkwardly. "Then she asked Liam for your number and tried to contact you several times, but you never responded. She complained to Liam, and he reached out to me. But I didn't want to bother you during such a critical time in your research, so I didn't say anything until now. Yeah, as you know, when I'm deep into my research, I focus solely on that. I'd been practically living in the lab for over a month. I didn't even have time to check my phone." "Exactly. But a lot happened during that time." "Did something happen?" I asked Keith, feeling curious. Suddenly, I was called to the president's office. "Samuel, Mr. Nelson wants to see you. Could you please come to the president's office?" I gave Keith a quick nod, saying we'd talk later, and hurried to the president's office. When I arrived, President, Mr. Nelson, extended his hand for a handshake. "Congratulations. You did a great job." "Thank you. Now we can reduce the suffering caused by the side effects of chemotherapy." With a sense of fulfillment from finally achieving my dream, I shook Mr. Nelson's hand and let a tear slip down my cheek. I hadn't cried even when I lost my mother, but now the tears flowed. I couldn't cry back then because I couldn't accept the reality of my mother's absence and felt ashamed of my own helplessness. Thinking I didn't deserve to cry. Even though my mother wouldn't come back with this new drug, she would still gently pat my head and say, "You did well." Now, I felt it was okay to cry. That's how I felt. Have you made your decision? Mr. Nelson asked me that question. As I lifted my head to answer, I suddenly saw someone I didn't really want to see come into view. "What are you doing here?" Noticing my stunned expression, Mr. Nelson began introducing her to me. "Oh, this is Mary. She'll be working as a secretary for us. Nice to meet you. I'm Mary. Looking forward to working with you." Her eyes were already looking down on me in my work clothes. She might have been trying to pretend it was our first meeting, but I couldn't forgive those condescending eyes. "Mr. Nelson, I'm not sure how Mary was hired, but she isn't suitable for our company." "Oh? And why is that?" Mr. Nelson asked curiously, so I explained about her. "This company stands on the hard work and dedication of its researchers, as you well know." "Indeed. Our researchers are our greatest asset. But this woman dislikes the work clothes our researchers wear daily. She called them dirty, ugly, and smelly. Such an attitude doesn't fit our company's culture." "You're right. A researcher's work clothes are like their battle armor. They are brave warriors fighting unknown diseases. We don't need someone who mocks their battle attire." "What?" Mary was the one who looked shocked by my words and Mr. Nelson's response. For a moment, she opened and closed her mouth as if trying to say something, then finally, with a determined look, she pointed at me and said, "Excuse me, Mr. Nelson, but he is the one unfit for this company." "Oh? And why is that?" "Actually, I was waiting to gather evidence, but he has been leaking our clients' personal information to other companies." "What? Me?" I was dumbfounded by the accusation. As I stood there in disbelief, she opened her phone and showed a photo. "This is a copy of the client information he gave to another pharmaceutical company. His phone should have the same data. I plan to inform Mr. Nelson and have him arrested." "What nonsense! You're lying." "It's true. If you're innocent, show us your phone." As we argued, the door suddenly knocked and opened without waiting for a response. There stood my colleague Keith and, surprisingly, Lily. "Keith and Lily? What are you doing here?" I asked, bewildered. Keith replied, "I was going to tell you earlier, but Lily joined the company as a secretary right after that." Confirming Keith's words, Lily spoke. "Yes. I didn't get to meet you then, but I've been working here for a month. It's a pleasure to meet you formally." "Oh, I see. So, why are you both here?" They had heard our argument from the president's office and thought there was trouble. When Lily saw Mary pointing at me, she gave her a sharp look, unlike her usual demeanor. "Mary, are you trying to frame an innocent person, again? What are you talking about?" Mary retorted. "I know you were extracting personal information from the phones of men you met at mixers and selling it to rival companies." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Mary looked panicked. Keith then added to her distress. "After the mixer, you contacted everyone, including Liam, right? We found out that their phone data was copied after you contacted them." "So what? That doesn't prove anything. It could be a coincidence." Unfortunately for you, employees at pharmaceutical companies, especially researchers, are very strict about security. We have software installed that sends an alert to specific contacts if our phone data is copied. A month ago, Liam received such an alert. And so did the others you contacted. That's just a coincidence." Mary insisted. Lily then provided further evidence. "Mary, you used the same method to get me fired. You stole client data from my phone and passed it to a rival company, spreading rumors that I was responsible. To clear my name, I hired professionals to investigate. The hacking software you used infects a target's phone when they answer a call, extracting data. The recipient of the data was traced back to your phone. That's a lie. You're just jealous of my skills and trying to frame me. Mary shouted. You've always tried to play the victim and weasel your way out of situations, haven't you? But not this time. I had professionals investigate your phone, and they found tons of incriminating evidence. What? You hacked my phone? That's a crime. You're the last person who should be saying that. After a fierce argument between the two women, Mary seemed to realize she was at a disadvantage. In a final desperate attempt, she pointed at me. The real culprit is this man. Yes, he must have tampered with my phone out of spite for making fun of him. Mr. Nelson, please believe me. It's all his fault. The accusation was so absurd it was almost laughable. Oh? And what benefit would I have from stealing information from everyone's phones? To be honest, I have access to personal information of far more influential people than my colleagues, or even Mr. Nelson. Why would I need any of this trivial information? What are you talking about? There's no way you have such connections. Mary retorted. This time, Mr. Nelson spoke up. No, he's telling the truth. Samuel has connections with CEOs of major pharmaceutical companies, renowned researchers worldwide. And even some Nobel laureates. What? Mr. Nelson, what are you talking about? Mary looked confused by Mr. Nelson's sudden statement. Mr. Nelson then added. Because Samuel is my son and the next president of this company. What? Moreover, most of our major drugs were developed by him. He has been studying pharmacology on his own since childhood, and joined our company as a temporary researcher while still in middle school. He developed a famous treatment for a rare disease when he was in high school. We've kept his identity low-key to avoid poaching by other companies and offers from prestigious universities and renowned professors overseas. And now, he's developed a revolutionary anti-cancer drug. My time as president is over. What? It can't be. As Mary let out a foolish-sounding exclamation, security guards were already standing by in the room. By the way, we hired you to lure you into exposing your crimes. We've recorded everything with surveillance cameras and your computer's camera. Additionally, the data you sold to other companies included a special gift. The data I sold? Mary stammered. Yes, it contained a virus. The moment they opened it, they were infected. You will likely face severe consequences from them. What? How could you? Hearing this, Mary trembled. Her actions had now clearly exposed that she had stolen our company's information. After that, Mary was handed over to the police by security. Of course, we included all the evidence we had gathered. According to my father, she was one of the industrial spies operating around the pharmaceutical industry. She mainly targeted pharmaceutical researchers with honey traps, but ended up being manipulated by her targets instead, making her a rather incompetent spy. Having completed the much-anticipated new drug, I decided to take over my father's position as president. My father had asked me several times before, but I had insisted on completing the new drug first, and he had graciously waited. Lily, who had unknowingly joined our company, became a close confidant. By the way, Lily, what's going on between you and Keith lately? What do you mean? We're just as usual. Keith has always looked out for me since I was a child. Since you were a child? Oh, you didn't know? Keith is my cousin. He took care of me when I was sick as a child. Oh, I see. I realized I had made a huge mistake. I heard that he would be working with the person who developed the drug that cured my illness, and I asked to meet you. Even if just to see you up close. After joining the company, I learned that you were actually Mr. Nelson's son and the next president. So I was too intimidated to approach you. But now, I'm so happy we can talk like this. You're happy to talk to me? Yes, I've always admired you. Oh, really? I see. I felt foolish for assuming that Keith and Lily were romantically involved and thinking I should step aside. I had been a complete clown. After that, I took over as president and helped distribute the new drug worldwide. Lily, who supported me both professionally and personally, became my partner. Naturally, it was my friend Keith who helped bring us together. Hey, Keith. You always have my back. Don't you find me annoying? Not really, you're a clumsy research fanatic, but I don't find you annoying. Well, you're a good friend. Wait, you're my benefactor and my dear friend. What? Since high school, he had always looked out for me and taken care of me. I considered him a close friend, but it was the first time I had heard him call me his benefactor. What do you mean by benefactor? You know that rare disease Lily had? It's known to have a strong genetic component, right? Yeah. Well, my mother also had that disease. What? This was news to me. Keith's mother had been suffering from the rare disease for a long time, and she was in the final stages with little time left. Both he and his family had nearly given up hope due to the lack of effective treatments. Then one day, a groundbreaking new drug was developed domestically, which significantly improved the condition of those afflicted with the rare disease. Keith's mother was one of those who experienced this remarkable recovery. Wow, I had no idea. Yeah, you used to miss school a lot for your research. One day, I overheard the teachers talking about you in the staff room. They said you were a genius high school student who had developed an amazing drug. That's an exaggeration. It was just a byproduct of the research I was doing for the new drug. I was just lucky. But that byproduct saved my mother and Lily. When I found out you were the one who developed it, I was amazed and grateful. I felt ashamed for not doing anything meaningful while you were developing life-saving drugs. I wanted to do something too. But I knew I couldn't compete with you intellectually. So I decided to go to the same university as you and help you in any way I could. I see. I had the highest IQ score in the history of my elementary school. While teachers praised me, I felt out of place because my way of thinking was fundamentally different from other kids. I spent a lonely childhood with books and encyclopedias as my only friends. In middle school, it got worse, no one talked to me, and I was often isolated. Instead, I found joy in learning about pharmacology from company researchers, so I didn't need school friends. As a result, I barely attended school, just meeting the minimum attendance requirement. Nowadays, there are support groups and communities for gifted individuals, but those didn't exist during my school days, leading to severe isolation. I remembered how much fun I had in high school thanks to Keith. Honestly, he was the one who taught me how to interact with people. No matter the reason, you're an important friend to me. Let's keep supporting each other. Yeah, you can count on me. Keith and I laughed together. People recognize me as a genius who invented many new drugs. However, that's just the outcome. I owe it to my mother, who raised me while struggling with her illness, my father, who let me freely pursue my passion for pharmacology, my friends who never abandoned me, and Lily, who loves me for who I am. I've been supported by many people to get to where I am today. We often think we stand alone by our own power, but that's not true. We live supported by the love and kindness of many people. I want to remember this gratitude and continue to work hard so that I can repay their kindness someday. What? A recluse in this middle of nowhere place? Well, that's just like you, the introvert who spent all his time gaming. I was debating whether to go to my high school reunion. On my way to the venue, I immediately regretted deciding to attend, because I happened to run into my least favorite classmate from high school. But then, it happened. What the? My classmate stood there, staring blankly at one point. And at the end of his gaze, there was an incredibly beautiful woman standing. "Long time no see," the woman said, her cheeks slightly flushed, as she peered into my face. "If you don't come, I'll keep waiting." How could I not go after receiving a message like that? Reluctantly, I put on one of the newer jackets from my closet. And then, well, the rest can be whatever. I put on my worn-out sneakers at the entrance and opened the door. A frank feeling escaped my lips. Oh man. I really don't want to go to a reunion. My name is Leslie, and I'm 25 years old. Today, I was going to head to my high school reunion. It's the first reunion since graduation. And the group chat organized by the host is full of upbeat messages like "I can't wait, I really want to see everyone, I'll definitely be there," with nearly everyone in the class planning to attend. And then there's me. I barely managed to send a "I'll be there" just before the RSVP deadline. Why? Because I really don't want to go to the reunion. I'm not feeling great. Maybe I should take some antacid before going. I didn't have any memories from high school that made me want to see my old classmates. What I remember is sitting quietly in the corner of the classroom. I wasn't particularly skilled at anything, nor did I stand out in any way, and on top of that, I was terrible at socializing. So inevitably, I spent a dark 3 years in high school. I was, you might say, an introvert. Who would even be happy to see me there? Does anyone even remember me? On my way to the nearest station, I couldn't stop thinking these negative thoughts. If it weren't for that message, I probably wouldn't have even replied to the group chat. I'm dragging my feet toward the venue, all because of Alicia. My childhood friend asked me, "I really want you to come to the reunion," so I had no choice. When she said she'd be waiting for me, I couldn't refuse to attend. But the first time I hear from Alicia in 3 years is about this reunion. What's up with her? Alicia, my childhood friend, has been with me since preschool. She had a chubby figure, pale skin from being indoors all the time, and always spoke in a low voice. Because of these traits, she was called some not-so-nice nicknames in class. Back then, she was my fellow introvert. And she was practically my only friend. Yeah, I should bring that if I'm going to see her. I turned on my heel and headed back toward the apartment I came from. Strangely, my steps felt lighter than they had been. However, just as I was about to cross the street to the hotel where the venue was. Well, if it isn't Leslie the introvert. Did you say you were coming? My face froze at that moment. Oh no. Of all the classmates to run into first, it had to be the one I least wanted to see. Maybe it really would have been better not to come to this reunion. Ignoring my regret, that guy walked over with a grin on his face. It's been ages. How have you been, champ? Hey, about that nickname. Never mind. He looked up at me, peering into my face, and I mumbled awkwardly as I looked down. I thought I had gained some courage after facing the harsh realities of the world. But the moment we made eye contact, all the confidence I had built up deflated like a balloon with a hole. Why do the power dynamics from school days have such a hold on people? You're still the same as ever. Unremarkable, kind of dorky, not very polished. You haven't changed a bit, champ. It's reassuring, really. The guy laughing and patting me on the shoulder. Kenneth, my former classmate, was always someone who lacked any sense of delicacy and spoke whatever was on his mind. Leslie? Ha, sounds like a girl's name. I still remember him laughing at me when we were first in the same class. He naturally thought it was okay to make introverts the butt of jokes. Honestly, he was just a jerk. But people like him, for some reason, excel academically and athletically, and on top of that, had good looks. And naturally, they were at the center of the class. We were on completely opposite ends of the class hierarchy, him at the top and me at the bottom. Kenneth, you. What? What about me? Are you about to say I'm still as handsome as ever? Well, I hate to admit it, but he was right. He looked even more ruggedly handsome than before. Maybe he's been playing sports, judging by his tan skin and muscular build. On top of that, he was wearing a suit that screamed expensive and a watch that seemed like a high-end brand. Hey, do you know about Blossom Advertising? I'm working as a sales rep there now. Kenneth said, draping his arm around my shoulder with a smug look on his face. Blossom Advertising is one of the top 5 advertising agencies in the industry. It makes sense that he seems to be doing well financially, considering he's likely making a lot of money. So, what about you? You used to always be playing games in class. You're not still gaming all day, are you? Wait, are you serious? Seeing my reaction, Kenneth's smile twitched for a moment. Then, in the next instant, he burst into laughter, clutching his stomach. Seriously? So you're a recluse or something, still living at your folks' place in this boonish town? No, that's not. Sure, the town we're from is a rural place that's far from lively. As I tried to refute him, Kenneth wouldn't let me get a word in. Come on, it's fine. Life has its ups and downs, right? We're only 25, we can always start fresh. Let's do our best. He nodded to himself, patting my shoulder as if to encourage me. All the while, Kenneth continued to ramble on with a smug grin. That's right. This was another thing I couldn't stand about him. I gazed off into the distance. At that moment, Kenneth suddenly muttered as if he had remembered something. By the way, I was surprised to see her on the guest list. Her? That's her. The one who was close to you, that pig with glasses, Alicia. What? At that moment, I felt like my head was about to explode. The emotions that surged up were so intense that I unconsciously grabbed Kenneth's shoulder. Hey! I don't care what he says about me. But to insult my childhood friend who isn't even here. I couldn't believe how angry I felt. But even though I had grabbed Kenneth's shoulder, he was looking in another direction and hadn't noticed me at all. What is that? He mumbled like he was in a trance and stood frozen in place. Wondering what it was, my anger subsiding a bit, followed his gaze. And then... What the? Across the crosswalk, standing against the backdrop of a building, was a woman. Her appearance held me captive just like it did Kenneth. Even from a distance, I could see her translucent, porcelain skin. Her glossy black hair, softly curled, gently framed her small face. Under her bangs were large, jewel-like eyes and a well-shaped, beautiful nose. Her light pink lips stood out strikingly against her white skin. From the cream-colored dress she wore, slender arms and legs extended gracefully. A doll? Don't be stupid. She's a real person, and incredibly beautiful. Kenneth, excited, shook my shoulder vigorously. Despite being shaken, I couldn't take my eyes off her. Off the stunning beauty who was impossibly close. I'm going over there. What? I'm gonna ask her out. And if things go well, I might just skip the reunion. No sooner had he said this than Kenneth dashed across the crosswalk. And then, I fell in love at first sight. Would you do me the honor of having dinner with me? As if proposing, he knelt on one knee and extended his hand to the beauty. Even such an exaggerated scene looked fitting between a handsome man and a beautiful woman. For someone like me, it could never. Leslie. Yeah. Hey, you're Leslie, right? That's right. Wait, what? I was looking down, but the moment I raised my head, I felt like my eyes were going to pop out. Because the beautiful woman who was supposed to be across the intersection was now so close she could almost touch me. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Sorry I'm late. What? The overwhelming beauty I'd seen from afar was right in front of me. A sweet, fresh scent, perhaps from her perfume or shampoo, wafted around her. Beautiful women really do smell nice. I thought absently, as if in a dream. Hey, are you mad? Because I was late for our meeting? I'm not mad. You probably just got lost or something. How did you know? Yeah, Alicia, you have always been, Alicia? At that moment, the sounds around me suddenly became clear. The beautiful woman smiled, her grin blooming like a flower. Long time no see, she said, twirling the ends of her hair with her long, slender fingers. That nervous habit of hers was... Alicia, it's really you, isn't it? I didn't recognize you at first. Leslie, you've become really handsome. You're the one who's changed. Honestly, I was still in disbelief. She looked like a completely different person. The woman standing in front of me in the image of Alicia, my childhood friend, in my memory. Everyone used to call me a pig with glasses. She was always pale and chubby since childhood. On top of that, she wore thick glasses and was often teased at school. I remember how she often cried on our way home. Her timid and shy personality was probably part of the reason for it. She had a round face, chubby arms and legs, small eyes, and a flat nose. She had long hair she used to hide her face and wore baggy uniforms to cover her figure. That was the last timid I saw of Alicia at our high school graduation. Is it really you, Alicia? It's a little embarrassing to hear my name so much. In a daze, I stared at Alicia, who smiled shyly back at me. Just then, Kenneth hurriedly ran over, looking flustered. Hey, hey, hey! You know her, Leslie. No wonder Kenneth didn't realize she was Alicia. If he recognized her as the pig with glasses he used to mock, what kind of face would he make? A mischievous thought crossed my mind, and I decided to play dumb. Don't you remember? She was a classmate too. A classmate. So she's coming to the reunion today as well. Yeah, she said she's attending. You're kidding me. Kenneth clutched his head, twisting in agony. He was probably trying hard to recall her. But finally, he shouted, I give up. I'm sorry, I can't remember. How could I forget such a beautiful woman? I'm such an idiot. But meeting you here must be fate. Would you accompany me to the venue? Kenneth knelt once again, offering his hand to Alicia. But she silently walked past him. What? Kenneth froze in his dramatic pose, completely ignored by Alicia. Then she smiled brightly and suddenly grabbed my hand tightly. Leslie, hurry up. The reunion's starting. Alicia, wait. As the light turned green, Alicia pulled me along, and we dashed across the crosswalk. I could hear Kenneth's voice murmuring Alicia, behind us. Leslie. Here's some water. Your face has been red for a while, have you had too much to drink? Oh, yeah. Thanks. I took the glass Alicia offered and gulped down the water. But it was like trying to put out a fire with a glass of water. This was nowhere near enough to calm me down. Every time Alicia entered my line of sight, my heart started racing. Wow, Alicia, you've really become beautiful. Ha! My heart skipped a beat at a classmate's nearby comment. For a moment, I thought I had accidentally let my true feelings slip. Alicia really has become beautiful. This isn't just about losing weight and getting slim. It's like she's changed so much on the outside that her inner self seems different, too. The timid Alicia from back then was gone, and she walked with her back straight, like a top model on a fashion runway. The confidence radiating from her wasn't something you could achieve just by dressing up. It enveloped her entire being like a glow. She seems so distant now. Did you say something, Leslie? Are you feeling unwell? The way she tilted her head and her kindness toward others were the same as always. While I'm still stuck in my introverted days, Alicia has transformed into a completely different person, drawing all eyes in the venue. Even though we're standing next to each other, it feels like we're living in different worlds now. Sorry. I need to go to the restroom. What? Are you okay? I'll go with you. I just drank too much water. Pathetically, I ran away. I watched from the corner of my eye as classmates gathered around Alicia, whispering about her. Still, I couldn't bear it. I'm just a kid. In the hallway, I reached into my jacket pocket and held onto something cold and hard. It was the handheld game console I had brought from home. It was a memento of the times Alicia and I used to play together at my house. Wow, nostalgic. You still have it, Leslie. I imagined Alicia saying that with sparkling eyes behind her glasses. But the current Alicia didn't seem interested in games at all. No, it wasn't Alicia, it was me who couldn't show this to her. It felt like I was the only one still stuck in the past, and I wished I could just disappear. Did you see her? Alicia's amazing, right? I couldn't even recognize her. Two girls passed by me, chatting about her. Isn't it because of her family's money? You know she is. A full-body plastic surgery. Lucky her, I wish I was born a CEO's daughter, too. The amount of money she must have spent is different, I bet. No way. It started to feel strange that Alicia and I were ever together. Even though our families were neighbors, I was just the second son of an average salaryman's family. Meanwhile, Alicia's father was the CEO of a long-standing food manufacturer. In other words, Alicia was a CEO's daughter. Her father was really strict. He hated video games. Would Alicia, their only daughter, eventually take over the company as CEO? If that happens, we'll definitely be living in separate worlds. Maybe that's why she invited me here today. Maybe Alicia sensed that we couldn't go back to being the way we were. Perhaps she wanted to use this opportunity to cut ties with me. If that's the case, I don't like it. I still want to be friends with Alicia. That was my honest wish. At least, it was at this point. As the reunion reached its final stages, conversations about the after-party began to arise everywhere. Alicia, are you coming? Let's go to the after-party together. Let's talk more. Alicia was still surrounded by classmates, and I didn't even have a chance to approach her. I wondered if Alicia planned to go to the after party. I wanted to know, but I couldn't even see her expression to find out. Then, it happened. "I'd like to talk with you alone." A short message appeared on my phone, just that was enough. Before I even checked who sent it, my heart skipped a beat. Because I had been thinking the exact same thing. "I'm sorry, everyone. I'd love to, but I think I'll head home tonight." Smiling, Alicia slipped out of the crowd. Even such a casual moment felt like a scene from a movie. Without a doubt, Alicia was the star of this reunion. I couldn't help but wonder if it was okay for someone like me to be alone with Alicia. Despite the slight feeling of guilt, my heart kept racing. I was happy. Out of everyone, Alicia chose me. Then, it happened. Under the venue lights, Alicia's large eyes sparkled as she turned towards me by the window. Our eyes met. "Leslie." Alicia called my name with a bright, genuinely joyful smile. My face flushed, as if all the blood in my body rushed to it at once. "She's beautiful." For the first time, I felt something new towards the girl waving at me. I was so taken aback that I couldn't even wave back. Seeing my lack of response, Alicia tilted her head in puzzlement. Then suddenly, someone barged in. "Alicia, how about dinner after this?" It was Kenneth, who had been dazed in the corner of the room, finally regaining his senses. "I'm sorry. I have plans after this. Just 30 minutes, no, even 15 minutes. Please, give me a chance." "A chance?" "Yes. Listen, Alicia, Kenneth launched into a passionate self-promotion. He graduated from a prestigious private college in New York and currently works for a well-known advertising company. He earns more than anyone else at this reunion and plans to buy a penthouse in New York someday. His suit and watch today were expensive brand-name items. In other words, he considered himself a man worthy of an extraordinary beauty. We've reunited, so let's put the past behind us. I was just a kid back then, part of the fun. But you've really become beautiful, Alicia. You're like a different person. Did you lose weight because you were upset about being teased? If so, maybe I deserve some credit for it. I was shocked you chose Leslie, an introverted shut-in gamer with no talents and no money. But hey, I'm generous. Of course. I'll forgive you if you'll have dinner with me." With a smug expression, Kenneth extended a hand to Alicia, confident he had sealed the deal. Then, Alicia, who had remained silent, suddenly spoke up. She had a puzzled expression on her face. Who are you?" "What?" Kenneth froze at Alicia's response, stunned. The classmates around them, who had been watching the two, all let out a wow and burst into laughter. Then Kenneth's face turned red with anger, and he snapped back defiantly. "It's me, Kenneth." "Kenneth. We were in the same class for 3 years, and I was class president in our second year." "Kenneth, oh, that Kenneth?" "That's right." Kenneth, angry that he had been forgotten, finally looked relieved when Alicia remembered him. However, in the next instant, he was frozen again by Alicia's words. Kenneth, who confessed to every girl in school and got in trouble with the teachers. What? Although Kenneth had been a popular class president. The reason he'd been left alone in the corner of the room tonight was because of these incidents. His reputation for womanizing and his shallow personality were infamous throughout the school even back then. 7 years after graduation, their classmates, now mature, were once again reminded of his bad behavior. No one wanted to get involved with him, so everyone kept their distance. That's right, it was terrible. He didn't care if someone had a boyfriend. And once he got bored, he'd drop them immediately. There must be a few victims among us here. The ones chuckling were those who weren't targets of Kenneth back in the day. In other words, the girls Kenneth used to mock for their appearance. Laughter spread from them, and someone even shouted, "Is he still up to it?" and the whole venue erupted in laughter. Amidst it all, Alicia was the only one who, for some reason, raised her voice in anger. Hold on. Kenneth, you're wrong. Leslie isn't a shut-in. What? Also, take back what you said about him having no talents. Leslie is an amazing person who has been recognized by many. With that, Alicia mentioned a game. It was a mobile phone RPG game that had become a massive hit both domestically and internationally. The fact that it was developed by a current college student became a huge topic at the time. Of course, I know it. I got really into it myself. I still play it. The person who created that game, Leslie, is Leslie right there. What? Not only Kenneth but all the other classmates wore looks of surprise. Leslie had never shown their face, and their gender was unknown, with only the fact that they were 25 years old this year being known to the public. After all, I hadn't even told my parents that I was working in game development until last year. Incidentally, I live in a condo in New York, and today I took the train from the morning to return to my hometown. I didn't have many fond memories of high school, and if Alicia hadn't invited me, I probably wouldn't have attended the reunion. No way. I mean, if it's true, I just assumed they were a woman. Kenneth's voice trailed off in disbelief as the murmurs in the venue grew louder. And suddenly, my classmates surged towards me. That's amazing, Leslie. I play that game too. You were always into games. Can I get your autograph? Classmates who hadn't even noticed my presence earlier were now crowding around me, praising me, and trying to talk to me. I was bewildered by the attention, feeling both awkward and embarrassed. My body automatically backed away to the wall to distance myself from them. Haha. Sorry, I have plans after this. At that moment, someone grabbed my hand from behind. Startled, I turned around to see Alicia standing there. Let's run, Leslie. What? With that, Alicia suddenly pulled me, and we started running. We dashed out of the venue, sped down the hallway, and quickly exited the hotel. Then, we finally stopped after crossing the crosswalk where we had reunited that evening. I felt like I was the lead in a movie. But I didn't have the time to think about that. Being out of shape from my work, such sudden exercise was too much for my body. Phew. Why aren't you out of breath at all, Alicia? Maybe because I've been going to the gym. I also heard swimming, jogging, and hiking are good exercises for weight loss. Oh. Alicia smiled at me, unable to speak, saying, "You really are amazing, Leslie." Lately, I've been too busy to play games, but I've heard about Leslie's activities. Every time a game I worked on became popular, I felt as happy as if it were my own. If anyone's amazing, it's you. Alicia is much more impressive than I am. Earlier, I was just surprised at how incredibly beautiful Alicia had become. To have changed so dramatically, she must have put in an immeasurable amount of effort into dieting and beauty. Now that I realized it, I understood why she was so dazzlingly beautiful. And my heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was going to explode. You've become beautiful. Ha! I've wanted to tell you for a while, but I couldn't bring myself to say it, sorry. Leslie. Back in the day, I would have been able to compliment her more honestly. But facing the current Alicia, that was all I could manage to say. Her white skin turned a pale red, and she looked down shyly. She was incredibly cute. When she stood up for me against Kenneth, she had such a dignified and cool aura, and she was really beautiful. In my head, I could come up with endless words. So, just wondering, but do you have anyone you're dating right now? Even after asking, I didn't know why I did. But I felt like I had to ask. Even though I knew I'd probably regret asking. I'm getting married. What? I'm planning to have the wedding next year. Right now, we're in the middle of preparing. After graduating from junior college, Alicia worked as a secretary for her father while studying to be the next CEO. She met her fiancé through that connection. Alicia smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in her expression for a bride-to-be. I'm glad I got to see you, Leslie. I really wanted to tell you this in person today. Oh, right. Marriage. Of course. Someone as beautiful as her would be sought after by men. Maybe she became more beautiful because she was loved by her fiancé. I'm glad she's found happiness. I had to keep telling myself that. I was surprisingly shaken, even to myself. Congratulations, Alicia. I finally managed to say the words I needed to say the most. Alicia gave me a small smile and said thank you, then turned her back to me. Well then, take care, Leslie. Saying that, Alicia raised her hand to hail a taxi. Seeing this, I found my body moving on its own. Alicia. Suddenly grabbed by the hand, Alicia's eyes widened in surprise. I was also shocked by my own actions, but somehow managed to force out some words. How about we go to the amusement arcade? The one in front of the station. Ha! I had a lot of fun. I used to come here with you a lot, Leslie. Sneaking in so my dad wouldn't find out. Remember? After we spent some time playing games together at the amusement arcade. Alicia, her expression much brighter than when we arrived, turned to me walking behind her. Thank you, Leslie. You were trying to cheer me up, weren't you? Ha! Is this what they call pre-wedding jitters? I've actually been a bit anxious since the wedding was decided. The wedding announcement was mostly an excuse. The real reason was that she wanted to see me. Alicia suddenly smiled, making my heart skip a beat again. Games are really fun, aren't they? Even though we're adults, it's kind of embarrassing, but it made me want to play like we used to. You're really gonna say that to me, a grown adult who's making games right now and loves them? Oh, sorry. That's not what I meant. I get it. It's your dad, right? Yeah. Alicia's father was an old-fashioned man and was strict about his daughter's upbringing. He particularly disliked games, calling them the cause of stupidity and bad behavior, and he never allowed them for Alicia. So, there wasn't a single game-related item in Alicia's house. Alicia could only play games when she came to my house under the pretense of studying or when we went to the amusement arcade together after school. Even as a child, she couldn't freely do what she wanted. Much less as an adult, she couldn't even sneak in a little time to relax and was always busy with work. I wondered if such a routine was the reason Alicia's expression was clouded. I'll lend it to you. Next time. Ha! A game. You want to play, right? In truth, I already had it in my pocket. But the words next time slipped out because I wanted an excuse to see Alicia again. Even if your dad finds out and takes it away, I'll lend it to you again. I've got enough to sell anyway. Leslie. This was a kind of gamble. If Alicia said, I don't need it, I would back off gracefully. I'd sincerely congratulate her on her marriage. And I'd try not to think about seeing her again. Thank you, Leslie. Next time for sure. When Alicia gave me her biggest smile of the day. I didn't even care that I had won the bet. The prospect of seeing Alicia again filled me with such happiness that I couldn't hide it anymore. I was so thrilled that I couldn't focus on my work until the end of the month when we'd meet again. I thought about Alicia all the time. But it wasn't because I had started seeing her as a woman. After all, Alicia was getting married soon. Then on the promised day. Leslie. A beautiful woman, who could turn heads, ran towards me at the meeting place, waving and smiling. I tried to keep my composure, but inside I was almost in a panic. Even in a casual shirt and jeans, how could she be as cute as she was at the reunion? Being laughed at like that, I could almost forget I'm getting married. Sorry to keep you waiting. I made it here without getting lost today. Oh, that's great. Her proud face was so cute that I couldn't look at it directly. I turned my face away and handed her the bag with the game console and cartridges. Here. I picked a console that's easy to hide and some games that you can play quickly in your free time. Wow, thank you. Alicia peeked inside the bag, her face lighting up. Then, the next moment, she said something I hadn't expected. Hey, are you free after this? I'd like to have some tea and chat with you, Leslie. Ha! That might not be a good idea. Not because my feelings might waver. But because being alone with her so close to her wedding, what if someone we know saw us? No, that's okay. It wouldn't be right for your fiancé. It's fine. We're, anyway. Alicia? No. It's nothing. It's fine. She insisted that I shouldn't worry about it. Alicia half forcefully took me to a nearby cafe. We barely touched our tea before she started bombarding me with questions. How are your parents? Do you ever go back home to visit them? Only around New Year's and the summer holidays, I guess. They're both doing well. What do you talk about when you visit? Like, what your life in New York is like, and stuff? Yeah, pretty much. They ask if I'm eating well and stuff. Also, if there's someone special in my life yet. Someone special, you mean, like a girlfriend? Huh? Yeah, I mean, I don't have anyone, though. But since my brother got married, they seem to expect I'll be next. You don't have anyone? No. What's with you, asking all these questions? When I raised my voice a bit, Alicia snapped back to reality and said, I'm sorry, slumping her shoulders. An awkward silence fell between us. I quickly tried to change the mood by pointing at myself. Look. I wasn't popular at all in middle or high school, right? Even now, nothing's changed, as you can see. Huh? But you're so handsome, Leslie. You said the same thing at the reunion, you know. Whether it's her naive personality or because of her upbringing as a rich girl, Alicia has always had a slightly different perspective. She still sees me, a completely average guy, as handsome. In what way? If I were really handsome, at least one or two women would have confessed to me. But I've never been told. I couldn't finish my sentence. Alicia was staring at me with wide, surprised eyes. Alicia. Never, then, the reason you didn't reply. Huh? In our senior year, I confessed my feelings to you, Leslie. But you never gave me an answer. Was it because you didn't realize it was a confession? What? This time, I was the one staring wide-eyed in shock. Alicia had confessed to me? I couldn't believe it, but Alicia wasn't the type to lie. And her face didn't look like she was lying at all. On Valentine's Day, I gave you handmade chocolates and said, this is how I feel about you. Oh. So that wasn't just out of obligation? I totally thought it was one of those friendship chocolates. As an excuse, Alicia's chocolates were of such high quality that I thought they were store-bought. And because her voice was so quiet, I had a feeling she said something, but I couldn't make out what it was. So I never even dreamed that she had confessed her feelings to me. Still, I was happy to receive them, even as obligatory chocolates. You were the only one who didn't make fun of me for being an introvert and stayed by my side. Looking back on it, I spent every free moment thinking about Alicia back then. I wondered what game we should play together next. I worried that she might hear something nasty said about her behind her back. I thought about what I could say to make Alicia smile tomorrow. Maybe those feelings were actually love? Maybe you were my first love, Alicia. Just kidding. I only meant it as a light-hearted joke. A joke I could laugh off because it would never come true. Alicia. That was until tears began streaming down from her wide-open eyes. I'm sorry. It just came over me all of a sudden. No, I should be the one apologizing. I said something weird out of nowhere. That's not it. Shaking her head repeatedly, Alicia continued to cry. She kept repeating I'm sorry and that's not it over and over again. I waited until Alicia's tears stopped. Not because I knew how to comfort a woman but because waiting was all I could do. Then, as the sun began to set. Let's go home, Alicia. I extended my hand to Alicia like I used to when we were kids. Having finally stopped crying, Alicia gave a small nod. Hesitantly, she placed her pale, delicate hand on mine. Okay, Leslie. In that moment, I finally admitted my feelings. I was in love with Alicia. I love you. Alicia, I really do. Even though I knew it would only cause trouble for her. I just had to let her know how I felt. On our way home, I confessed to Alicia, who was walking beside me. What? I love you. Even now, much more than I did back then. Is that because of how I look now? Well, honestly, that is part of it. But, I was joking. You're as serious as ever, Leslie. Finally, she smiled faintly. Standing in front of me, Alicia firmly said, I'm sorry. She said she was getting married, so she couldn't return my feelings. I know, as long as you're happy. That's all I want. Hey, Leslie. How about a bet? A bet? Surprised by her sudden proposal, I asked her what she meant. Alicia nodded, saying yes, and took out the game console I had given her earlier from her bag. With this, let's each play one game, and the one with the higher score wins. How about it? But what exactly are we betting? That is. Alicia smiled brightly and said. We were betting on her marriage. 15,000 points to 2,500 points. I lost so badly. The result of the match was a landslide victory for me. Despite her total defeat, Alicia looked strangely refreshed. And suddenly, she said something unbelievable. I lost, so I have to keep my promise. I won't get married. Huh, what? Because I bet my marriage on this. I quit. Wait, Alicia, I've never been married, but you can't just call off a wedding like that. I know, I just wanted to say it. Alicia smiled with the same slightly sad expression she had when she told me, I'm getting married. And the reason was, even though it was a marriage, hers was an arranged marriage. An arranged marriage. You'd think in this day and age? But it's a great deal. Just by marrying me, they'll lend us a large amount of money. Just by. Alicia's fiancé was the heir of a large company they did business with. He was 35, 10 years older than Alicia, and she wasn't fond of him. Looking down, Alicia muttered quietly. I've met him a few times, but he never smiles. Even when we're alone, he doesn't talk, and if I try to speak to him, he ignores me. It's like he's not interested in me at all. I don't want to get married. But, Leslie, please don't tell my dad. She lifted her head and smiled at me. Tears welled up in her eyes, and her lips quivered. If that's the case, if she feels that way, she should dump that guy and choose me instead. The words almost escaped my throat. Even someone like me, who's out of touch with Alicia's world, understands the meaning of an arranged marriage. How many people are involved in their marriage and how much it will affect the future? No. I looked up but couldn't say anything, then lowered my head again. Seeing me like this, Alicia giggled. It's okay, Leslie. Thank you. You were trying to cheer me up, right? Saying you love me, even though it was a lie. Alicia wiped away the tears from the corner of her eyes with her fingers, laughing. And then she said that she knew I already had a fiancé. What, fiancé? I actually saw you walking with a really beautiful woman, Leslie. It was about 3 years ago. When she went on a business trip to New York, she happened to see me. She was going to call out to me, but she overheard our conversation and couldn't help but run away. Alicia spoke with nostalgia. I look forward to our future together. I thought you were proposing, Leslie. That's when I realized my first love was over. It was sad. But I was finally able to move forward. Just wait a second. That's not true, Alicia. Alicia tilted her head in confusion, and I explained the truth to her. That was someone from the company. She came to scout me. That was during my senior year of college. I had already developed a hit game and was directly scouted by a major gaming company with an offer. Would you like to work for us? The woman Alicia saw was Catherine, the company's hiring manager. At the time, I had just agreed to the job offer. So Catherine was not my fiancé or anything like that. When I said, I look forward to working with you as a colleague, that's what I meant. No way, so, really. With her voice trembling, Alicia asked again. This time, I looked straight at her as I replied. I love you. Of course, the current you is beautiful, and if I let my guard down, I find myself staring. But it's not just that. Throughout the reunion, you were always concerned about me. You stood up to Kenneth, whom I struggled with in high school, for my sake. I love that kindness of yours that hasn't changed since back then. Even if you still looked the same as before, I'm sure I could have said this proudly. I love you, Alicia. You shouldn't have to get married if you don't want to. Marry me instead. I thought that you liked women like her, Leslie. Even though I was heartbroken, I couldn't give up. I was overweight from a young age, and I thought I could never lose weight. But when I made up my mind and started dieting, the pounds started to drop quickly. Once I became slim, I wanted to try my best with beauty and makeup, which I hadn't cared about before. That's why I thought I was able to change because of that heartbreak. Alicia wiped her overflowing tears, smiling that gentle smile I loved from before. It's because of your own hard work that you've changed, Alicia. Not only that, but thank you anyway. For giving me the push I needed. Despite usually being reserved, her determination to work hard. And though she's shy, she can express her gratitude honestly. That's all the Alicia I love. So, what about you, Alicia? I love you too, Leslie. I always have, your kindness, how good you are at games, and how you never treated me differently. Treated you differently? Yeah. Everyone around me only saw me as the CEO's daughter. My father always said, you shouldn't play games, and forced me to take lessons like piano and horseback riding to be a proper lady. The kids my age either mocked me for my looks or kept their distance because we lived in different worlds. But you were different. When you asked me to play games with you, you don't know how happy that made me. Even though I was new to it, you never went easy on me. I never won. But I didn't feel bad at all. It was proof that you didn't treat me differently. It was probably just because I was a kid at the time. But Alicia, the woman I love most in the world, is smiling so happily. So maybe it's okay to keep the truth a secret for a while longer. Thinking this to myself, I smiled back at Alicia. However, just because we confirmed our feelings for each other doesn't mean we're at a happy ending. Alicia and I later went to face the final boss. Which means, the one who planned Alicia's arranged marriage, her father. It's been a while. Leslie, is it? Are you the one who says he wants to date Alicia with marriage in mind? As soon as we met at her parents' home, her father glared at me with sharp eyes. It was only natural. If Alicia's marriage was called off, the company wouldn't receive the loan. And the one interfering with the marriage proposal was a guy who developed games, which he hated. Of course, he wouldn't like me, and I didn't expect to be liked from the start. If he opposed us, I was prepared to persuade him until he agreed. Please. I'm serious about loving Alicia. Could you please allow us to date? Do you understand what that means? Yes. A cold chill ran down my spine, and I wanted to look away. Even though it wasn't cold, my hands began to shake uncontrollably. At that moment, Alicia, sitting next to me, suddenly took my hand. The warmth stopped my hands from trembling. Yes, as long as I can be with Alicia, I don't need anything else. I could even give up my beloved games. I'll quit my job. What? I'll work for your company, even without pay, to make up for the loan. For a lifetime, if I have to, so please allow me to date Alicia. Please, Dad. The two of us bowed our heads deeply. Even if he didn't say anything, I wasn't scared at all. Because Alicia was by my side. That's enough. Both of you, stop. Eventually, as if giving up, a calm voice reached us. When we raised our heads, Alicia and I simultaneously said, our faces showing surprise. The stern and displeased look of the man before us had turned into a faint smile. It was fun. The game you developed, Leslie. Alicia recommended it to me. And although I thought it was silly and ignored it, I finally gave it a try the other day. No way. Dad, you played a game. Yes, I never knew a game could be so enjoyable. He apologized for being opposed to it without knowing. Then he turned to Alicia and bowed his head. When he raised his head again, he looked directly at me. If you're truly determined, don't worry about the loan. You don't need to quit your job. Someone who can create something so enjoyable should continue to showcase their talents in the right place. And there's nothing more expensive than something free is a business truism. Saying this, he laughed warmly, a gentle expression that resembled Alicia's smile. So, Alicia, since you were a child, you were obedient and always listened to your parents, and I took advantage of that. I forgot that you're a smart girl who can make her own decisions. I mistakenly thought I could control you as I pleased. To think that there's someone you truly want to marry, it's the first time I've heard you express wanting something for yourself. And to hear you dislike what was given to you, you must have really hated it. I'm sorry for forcing you into marriage for my own convenience. If he's the one you've chosen, I'm sure he'll make you happy. Be happy together. Seeing her father smile gently, a tear rolled down Alicia's cheek. Dad. Father and daughter embraced tightly, and the long-standing tension between them seemed to completely dissolve. Leslie. Alicia has become very beautiful, hasn't she? Yes. Very. If she grows old and is no longer beautiful, Can you swear to me that you'll still cherish her just the same? Of course. Okay. Seeing her father nod with satisfaction at my response, Alicia wiped her tears and smiled, saying, "Thank you, Dad." Then we looked at each other and reaffirmed our feelings for one another. We had overcome our biggest hurdle together. Now, with the person in front of me, I felt we could overcome anything that came our way. Later on, after dating for about a year, Alicia and I got married. Since I could work remotely, I made arrangements with my company to return to my hometown. Of course, it was so I could live with Alicia. The dishes are done, and I finished the laundry too, Alicia. Thanks, Leslie. I've got breakfast ready for tomorrow morning, but should we do it tonight too? Of course. I'd love to do it as much as I want if it's with you, Alicia. Oh, come on. Alicia smiled with feigned exasperation, but still nodded and said, "Okay." Then she handed me one of the 2 game consoles. Perfect. I was just about to suggest it. I'm not losing today. Bring it on. I won't lose today either. We both work hard during the day, and at night we split the chores. After that, we play games together. It might be a little different from a typical newlywed life, but this is our version of happiness. Again today, my beloved smiles and says, "This is fun." Seeing that makes me happy too, and I smile back. If these days continue unchanged, no matter what else might change, I can proudly say that I'm happy. Good morning. What? Why did you come early? What are you doing? I was helping with the cleaning so that everyone can work comfortably. We have cleaners. But I think it's important to feel like I'm also taking care of this hospital since I use it too. Just so you know, trying to get on our good side by doing janitor work won't earn you any points. It's not that easy to get recognized by the people working here. I became a research doctor at the request of Professor Johnson. However, one of the nurses, Jessica, didn't like me and would often berate me. But aside from her, my daily actions were appreciated by others, and I gradually started to gain recognition. Even though my research results weren't that impressive yet and I could have been criticized, I often got praised for working hard every day. And since I was still young, the older staff would take a liking to me. Then one day, "Hey, are you free next Saturday? Some of the nurses are planning a mixer, and we were wondering if you'd like to join." My senior colleague, Emily, invited me. What? A mixer? Yeah, they said they're bringing some girls, so we need to bring 3 guys. What do you think? Well, I've never been to a mixer before, so I'm not sure if I can handle it. It's not a serious mixer, so don't worry too much. Besides, you hardly get a chance to meet girls with all your work, right? We're medical professionals, so we'll be popular. Just think of it as a casual party with some new people. Ah, okay. To be honest, I had never had a girlfriend and had always been focused on studying. I had never talked to girls much, let alone gone to a mixer. I was extremely nervous, but I didn't have the courage to refuse Emily's invitation. Emily asked me in the morning, but I couldn't concentrate on work at all that day, and by the evening, I was still nervous. We headed to the venue together, and I'm sure she could tell how anxious I was. Emily reassured me, and when we arrived at the place, "Emily, this is the guy you brought?" "Sure, he's somewhat good-looking, but isn't there anyone better you could have brought?" "Well, it's not that serious of a mixer. I thought it would be nice to give him a chance to talk to some girls since he works so hard." I expected this kind of reaction. And so the mixer began. After the introductions, I struggled to initiate conversation, but thanks to Emily and the others, the mixer was lively. As I started to relax and enjoy myself a bit, "Ah!" a scream from a waiter echoed through the restaurant, and the place fell silent. I looked towards the waiter and saw a middle-aged man collapsed and foaming at the mouth. "Someone call an ambulance immediately. And bring some water, please. Hurry." I usually don't shout, but getting people to snap out of their panic requires a loud voice. Startled by my shout, the waiter quickly called the ambulance and brought the water. I had no idea what was wrong, but I adjusted his position, checked his pulse, and provided basic first aid. Is there anything we can do? Check if he has any companions here and look through his belongings. He might have a medical condition, and that will change how we treat him. Oh, okay. My name is Chris, and I currently work as a research doctor at a university hospital. I started working at this hospital 3 years ago, after being headhunted from the hospital I was previously employed at. If you feel a strong attachment to your current hospital, I won't force you. But I've been a professor for many years. And I see tremendous potential in you. Of course, it's wonderful to help those in need now. But working as a research doctor could also be a path for your future. That's what Professor Johnson said to me. I'm truly honored by your words. However, I have many memories at my current hospital, and I haven't fully sorted out my feelings yet. I'm still undecided. Like I said, I won't force you. Take your time to think it over and get back to me when you're ready. Of course. Being recruited by a university hospital is indeed a great honor. It meant that my abilities as a doctor were recognized. I should have been proud, and I was, but there were reasons why I couldn't easily move. This goes back about 15 years, to when I was a child. I lost my father when I was young and was raised by my mother in a single-parent household. I was deeply grateful to my mother, and I believed that it was because of her that I became the person I am today. However, my mother also passed away when I was in middle school. She had a chronic illness that worsened, but she never showed how sick she really was in front of me. She suddenly collapsed one day, and despite being rushed to the hospital, it was too late. She passed away a month later. My mother was everything to me, and her presence had been my support. I wasn't a particularly strong person mentally, and losing her plunged me into despair. I spent my days not going to school and not talking to anyone. I was taken in by my mother's relatives and raised by them, but I always had my mother in my heart. My life felt empty until I graduated middle school. However, things changed when I entered high school and met a friend who changed my life. Your grades in the last midterm were amazing. How do you study? I don't do anything special. I just review what I learned in class and make sure I understand it. Then I review for about 10 minutes after I get home. Just that. You're a natural genius, Chris. I knew I was good at studying compared to others, but I never considered myself a genius. In fact, although my scores were higher, I admired his hard work and dedication. He once told me he didn't join any clubs to focus on his studies. He probably wanted to get into a good college, but I wondered what his motivation was. At first, it wasn't that great, so I was always curious. You're working so hard on your studies, what are your goals? I want to become a lawyer. My father almost got scammed once, but a lawyer helped us out. We couldn't afford to pay him. But he said helping people was his mission. Since then, I've wanted to become a lawyer to help people. Wonderful. I didn't say it out loud, but I truly felt that way deep down. Even though he's still a student, I was honestly envious of having such a clear vision for the future. I had lost my mother and lived without any purpose or energy. I was good at studying and thought getting good grades might help my future, but that was it. His influence made me start thinking about my own future. My strength was studying. I thought about how I could use my academic abilities to make a difference. My mother's memory came to mind. If I had medical knowledge, I might have noticed her condition earlier. I wanted to reduce the number of people who, like me, lost someone dear at a young age or suffered like my mother. It might sound grand, but I truly believed it was my mission. I worked hard towards becoming a doctor. I wasn't in a position to live a normal life. I couldn't ask my mother's relatives to pay for medical school, so I aimed to earn a scholarship with my grades. I'm aiming for first place in the finals. Of course, I'm planning on it too. I won't lose this time. We motivated and challenged each other. As a result, we consistently ranked at the top of our class and got into our first choice universities. I also received the scholarship I aimed for, which was a truly satisfying result. Though we parted ways, we still keep in touch and update each other on our lives. As a doctor and he as a lawyer, we continue to strive together. After graduation, I started working at a local hospital, excelling on the front lines as a doctor. This performance caught the attention of a university professor who reached out to me. So, I've been offered a position at a university hospital. I understand that a doctor's job isn't just about helping the patients in front of me. But my reason for becoming a doctor was to help those immediate patients. I feel like this would deviate from that goal. I get what you're saying, but as a research doctor, you could potentially save thousands, even millions of future patients. Something you can't do as a clinical doctor. Well, that's true. If your goal is to help people, then you don't need to be particular about the method. You should fully utilize your abilities where they're needed most. Hearing his words, I decided to work at the university hospital. Looking forward to working with you. I'm really glad you decided to join. Let's work well together. Working as a researcher is different from working as a regular doctor. That's why I knew I needed to keep my focus and work hard. Every day was new and challenging, but it was a tough life. Hey, are you the new doctor? Haven't seen you around before. One of the nurses, Jessica, spoke to me. I joined a little while ago. I'm currently working as an assistant to Professor Johnson. Oh, so you're one of Johnson's connections? He's pretty lenient with his inner circle. Did you get in through connections too? Well, in a way, yes. I was recommended for this position, but I haven't proven myself yet. If that's the case, it's good manners to introduce yourself to everyone working here, don't you think? Not doing so would tarnish Professor Johnson's reputation. I'm very sorry. We may be nurses, but if you look down on us or underestimate us, you'll have a problem. Of course, I never look down on the nurses. Nurses have their unique roles, and hospitals couldn't function without them. They are just as important as doctors. Knowing this, I tried to treat everyone at the hospital with respect, but maybe I wasn't coming across well. I was still a newbie, and although I didn't get this job through connections, it was true that I was working here because of Professor Johnson's recommendation. Remembering my position, I knew I needed to be more humble. Teamwork is essential not only in hospitals but in any workplace. So, I changed my attitude. Good morning. What? Why did you come early? What are you doing? I was helping with the cleaning so that everyone can work comfortably. We have cleaners. But I think it's important to feel like I'm also taking care of this hospital since I use it too. Just so you know, trying to get on our good side by doing janitor work won't earn you any points. It's not that easy to get recognized by the people working here. It's not that I was trying to get on their good side. Of course, I didn't want to be disliked either, but Jessica was particularly harsh towards me. I didn't know her past or why she disliked rookies like me, but her attitude towards me was very severe. She was friendly and smiling with others, and honestly, she was quite beautiful and well-liked. She was efficient in her work and admired by many, but she never warmed up to me, even after 6 months. However, others praised my daily actions, and I gradually gained recognition. Although my research results weren't significant yet, and I could have been criticized, I was often praised for working hard every day. Since I was still young, the older staff took a liking to me. One day, "Hey, are you free next Saturday? The nurses are planning a mixer and we thought you might want to join." A mixer? Yeah, they said they're bringing some girls, so we need to bring 3 guys. What do you think? Well, I've never been to a mixer before, so I'm not sure if I can handle it. It's not a serious mixer, so don't worry too much. Besides, you hardly get a chance to meet girls with all your work, right? We're medical professionals, so we'll be popular. Just think of it as a casual party with some new people. Well, okay. To be honest, I had never had a girlfriend and had always been focused on studying. I had never talked to girls much, let alone gone to a mixer. I was extremely nervous, but I didn't have the courage to refuse Emily's invitation. I didn't know what to wear or how the mixer would go. What if we had to pair up and talk to girls, or play a game, like a kind of embarrassing game? Not knowing anything about mixers, I prepared myself as best as I could, even though my preparation was more mental than practical. Being prepared makes a big difference. The more I acknowledged my nervousness, the more nervous I became. Using my medical knowledge, I tried to calm myself down. Emily invited me in the morning, but I couldn't focus on work at all that day. We headed to the venue together, and it was clear how nervous I was. Emily reassured me, and when we arrived, What? Emily, is this the guy you brought? Sure, he's somewhat good looking, but isn't there anyone better you could have brought? Well, it's not a serious mixer. I thought it would be nice to give him a chance to talk to some girls since he works so hard. If you say so, Emily. Jessica was there, clearly unhappy with my participation, but it was true that Emily had half forced me to come. I was so nervous that I felt faint, so I didn't care much about her displeasure. We entered the restaurant and took our reserved seats. I ended up sitting at the far end, feeling my heart pounding throughout my body. After about 5 minutes, the other group arrived. They were all attractive, outgoing types. People from a completely different world, making me even more nervous, but Emily helped me manage. After the introductions, I couldn't bring myself to speak, but thanks to Emily and the others, the mixer was lively. As I started to relax and enjoy myself, "Ah!" a waiter's scream echoed through the restaurant, and the place fell silent. I glanced towards the waiter and saw a middle-aged man collapsed, foaming at the mouth. Everyone noticed, and the restaurant fell into panic. Even though we were medical professionals, none of us expected this. However, I had experience with emergency patients. I was the only one who remained calm, immediately getting up and going to the man. He wasn't completely unconscious, but was hyperventilating. "Call an ambulance immediately. And bring some water. Ah! Hurry!" Usually, I don't shout, but it's effective to snap people out of panic. Startled, the waiter quickly called the ambulance and brought water. I didn't know what was wrong, but I adjusted his position, checked his pulse, and administered first aid. "Is there anything we can do?" "Find his companions and check his belongings. He might have a medical condition that will change how we treat him." "Oh, okay." After a while, Jessica and others started to help. The man had a pre-existing condition that caused the attack. Fortunately, I had treated patients with this condition before, so I focused on keeping him conscious until the ambulance arrived. The ambulance came quicker than expected, and he was taken to the hospital. I went along to explain his condition. After arriving at the hospital, I left everything to the medical team. Exhausted, I sat down in the hallway. Then, "Are you okay?" "We just got to the hospital." "How is he?" "He's fine. There's no immediate danger, and he should recover with proper treatment. The doctors are taking care of him now. So there's no need to worry." "That's a relief. But I was surprised by how quickly you reacted. I've handled emergencies at my previous hospital, so I didn't panic. It's normal for a doctor to be prepared for this. We've studied hard to save lives." When I said that, she fell silent. I wasn't trying to boast, but it might have sounded like I was blaming them for their delayed reaction. Honestly, I didn't have the mental bandwidth to be that considerate, so I regretted not choosing my words more carefully. "You're right. I'm sorry for always being cold and accusing you of getting in through connections. Compared to you, we couldn't do anything. If you hadn't been there, I don't know what would have happened to that man." "That's not true. Nurses save countless lives every day. Don't downplay that. Also, it's understandable to be shaken if you're not used to dealing with emergencies. But the fact is, I was the most shaken and couldn't do anything. That's something I need to work on, and I genuinely feel that way." Her words showed her genuine dedication as a nurse. Someone working just for the money wouldn't say such things. "You're really serious about being a nurse?" "Of course. That's why I didn't like you." "What? Why didn't you like me because you were serious about being a nurse?" "I also worked at a small clinic. I became a nurse because I lost my grandfather in a car accident when I was little. His life could have been saved. But it wasn't. I don't blame the medical staff at the time, but I wanted to prevent others from experiencing the same pain." "I see. I'm sorry to hear that." While our experiences weren't identical, she had gone through something similar. If she pursued nursing for that reason, it's the same for me. I didn't want others to suffer like my mother or end up lost like me, so I became a doctor. But why did that make you dislike me? Working at a small clinic limited what I could do. I had to make connections to climb up to this university hospital. So, I didn't have a good impression of someone who seemed to get in easily through Professor Johnson. I understand. If I were in your position, I wouldn't have a good impression either. But I have my own goals. Helping people directly is part of a doctor's job, but developing new medicines and treatments can save thousands, even millions, in the future. That's why I wanted to work with Professor Johnson. You're more committed than I am. That's truly impressive. I respect you. It was the first time she had said something positive about me, despite working together and seeing each other almost daily. I was genuinely happy and felt a sense of mutual understanding. Working together, I never understood why she seemed to look down on me, but I could see how hard she was working. I was glad we had the chance to talk everything over because I never thought she was a bad person at heart. She turned out to be just like me. Someone who works tirelessly to save lives, regardless of status or money. I realized once again that I need to work as hard as she does. Let's continue working together and motivating each other. That's my line. Let's work well together. We completely reconciled and became friends, chatting every morning. We worked in different areas, so we didn't collaborate directly. However, we were both striving towards the same goal. It was the noble cause of saving lives that allowed us to encourage and elevate each other. How about we have dinner together sometime? Dinner? You haven't taken a break recently, have you? Focusing on research is good, but you need to rest a bit. Besides, I wanted to have a proper meal with you. Next Saturday is free, so that works. I was surprised by the sudden invitation, but from that moment, I began to see her as more than just a colleague. Of course, she might see me as just a workmate, but for someone like me with no prior experience with women, being asked out to a meal was a huge event. Romance. Maybe two people with high aspirations understand each other. Oh, what are you doing here? You have great research skills, but no fashion sense. Get someone to help you with your outfit before your date. First impressions are crucial. Your usual lab coat look with a sudden stylish outfit will be irresistible. Professor Johnson. I was completely preoccupied with hiding my embarrassment at being overheard talking to her, but following Professor Johnson's advice, I decided to have one of my seniors check my fashion. As expected, my fashion sense was terrible, and I was really glad I got it checked. Meanwhile, my feelings for her kept growing stronger. Maybe she saw me as just a colleague, but on our third meal, she invited me to dinner, wearing a dress. I realized she might see me as a romantic interest too, and I confessed on our fourth date. We started dating. A year flew by, and we decided to get married. I was extremely nervous proposing for the first time, but she happily accepted. Looking forward to our life together. That's my line. I respect you deeply and am so glad we can get married. Thank you for proposing. When she said that to me, I blushed a bit. But I vowed in my heart not only to protect my patients' lives but to also protect her for the rest of my life. We had our wedding and started our married life, continuing our work, me as a research doctor and her as a nurse. I still support her every day in her efforts as a nurse, and every day feels fresh and enjoyable. I've managed to achieve some success as a research doctor and am now working hard as a promising researcher. Life is unpredictable. Each encounter can lead to unforeseen relationships, and the key is to live by your beliefs. Of course, you'll encounter people who don't get along with you. But you'll also meet people who recognize and support you. I plan to cherish those people and keep living my life true to my values. During an in-house competition, the new employee I was mentoring froze on stage. The presentation was delayed, and everyone in the room looked concerned. The data in the materials is. The data? Indeed, the numbers in the presentation were completely different from what I remembered. Hey, what's going on? Are you not prepared? One of the training staff couldn't hold back and spoke up. The rest of the employees began murmuring amongst themselves. Hey, there's only 5 minutes left. How could you make such a basic mistake with the data? You can't keep acting like you're still in school. Shouted at in a loud voice, she looked down, desperately trying to hold back her tears. I couldn't let this go on any longer. I stood up. Wait a minute. 5 minutes is plenty of time. I grabbed the laptop containing the original data and headed to the stage. Leave it to me. What happened next would turn out to be a pivotal moment for both me and the new employee. My name is Travis. I've been working at a printing company for about 7 years now, ever since I joined as a new graduate. My main job is to confirm printing orders and pass them on to the printing department. It's mostly routine work, and while there's a lot of it, it's fairly straightforward. I don't make any big mistakes, but I also don't have any notable achievements. In the company, I'm an unremarkable figure, neither excelling nor failing. It's almost impossible to stand out in a job that revolves around simple tasks. If I wanted to aim higher, I could request a transfer to the sales or development department during the biannual reviews, but I've stayed in the same department I was first assigned to, maintaining the status quo. Travis has been here a long time, right? Doesn't he ever get bored doing the same job? Theodore, our colleague from the same year, is already a manager, you know? Well, Theodore has been in the spotlight since he was a rookie. I mean, he graduated from Tokyo University, right? He's exactly the kind of elite this company wants. And where did Travis go to school again? I heard he didn't go to college. He graduated from an online high school. Oh, well, that explains a lot. I overheard this conversation from inside the women's restroom. What exactly does it explain? That I don't have ambitions because I went to an online high school? That I don't get bored doing the same job because of my educational background? I believe academic credentials have nothing to do with the quality of one's work, but I'm not skilled enough to say that with confidence. I'm okay with the way things are, and it's true I graduated from an online high school. But I don't remember doing anything bad enough to deserve being talked about like that, though, maybe in the eyes of my coworkers. My lack of contribution to the company is seen as a bad thing. But that's fine. Even if I went above and beyond in my work, nothing good would come of it. I pretended not to hear and walked past the restroom. The new fiscal year began, and a new group of employees joined the company. Among them was a strikingly beautiful woman. Her name was Rachel. With a smile as bright as a blooming flower, I figured she'd become popular in no time. But my prediction turned out to be completely wrong. During the months of training, I had a chance to work with her, and even with the simplest tasks I was doing, she took much longer than expected. She was thorough with her work, but that thoroughness cost her too much time. Under pressure from deadlines, she made mistakes over and over again. In short, she was inefficient. Even sorting tasks that came through the system or email was a challenge for her, and she quickly found herself isolated from the others. While the other new hires were efficiently handling both simple and advanced tasks, already proving useful as assistants to their senior colleagues, Rachel was still struggling with basic administrative work. Rachel was clearly being given the cold shoulder by her peers. I even overheard someone complaining, "Why is a girl like her at this company?" My friend didn't even get hired. While the other new employees left promptly at closing time for a group drink, Rachel stayed glued to her computer. When I asked if she wasn't joining them, she said they told her to come when she finished her work. By the time she stopped working, it was already 9 p.m. The gathering had surely ended by then. I couldn't help but think that the company atmosphere contributed to why this wasn't being called outright bullying. In meetings, our manager Theodore would say things like, "If you know you're not capable, you have to work harder than anyone else. If you can't contribute to the company, you're just a useless salary thief." Rachel's position in the company was becoming more and more uncomfortable. putting this kind of pressure on someone who's still a rookie won't accomplish anything. Rather than motivating her to work harder, it would only sap her energy. I suspected Theodore's real goal wasn't to encourage Rachel, but to send a warning to the others: if you don't perform, you'll be treated like this too. At the same time, he was hyping up the other new employees, telling them, "You guys are doing great. Keep aiming for a quick promotion." I couldn't understand why she was being treated so harshly, especially as someone still in her first year. During lunch break, I invited her to join me for a meal. Since Rachel was temporarily assigned to my department for training, it didn't seem out of place, and I was relieved no one found it suspicious. "You look tired. Are you okay?" I asked, even though I knew she wasn't. It turned out her situation was more serious than I thought. "I never realized I was such a failure." Her voice trembled, as if she were about to cry, and I panicked. I hadn't expected her to be this distressed. Everyone in my cohort graduated from top universities, and I'm the only one who went to a third-rate school. I already felt that gap. But now that we're working, the difference is even more obvious. Everyone's making progress, while I just keep messing up. "You must be disappointed in me too, Travis." Her words were full of sincerity. At the same time, I wondered if she was judging herself too harshly. "Rachel, are you holding yourself back because of your educational background?" "What? People, at least in the real world, don't judge you by your academic background or your grades. They judge you on your skills and motivation. Your peers might have impressive academic records and be good with numbers or languages, but that's because they worked hard. Even now, they're studying and learning about the company. None of them are slacking off, right? Yeah. They're getting results because they're putting in the effort. I know you're working hard too, but maybe you've drawn a line in the sand. Telling yourself you're no good just because you went to a less prestigious school. You're right. I've always thought they were smarter than me and could do things I couldn't. I figured, what's the point? I'm never going to be as good as them anyway. Then, first, you need to have confidence in yourself. You're incredibly thorough. Whether it's reports, cleaning, or organizing data, everything you do is done with care. That's a great quality, but maybe you could find a better balance between quality and speed. Even if you cut a few corners, with your level of work, no one's going to complain. As I rambled on, I remembered how low my own evaluations were from my coworkers. Who am I to give advice, really? Well, I mean, that's just my opinion, for what it's worth. I hope it helps a little. To my surprise, Rachel's eyes sparkled as she looked at me. No, Travis, your advice was really helpful. I was so fixated on doing everything perfectly, no matter what. I realize now that balance is key. It seemed like something had clicked for her. From that point on, Rachel transformed. Her work efficiency improved dramatically. She started to ask questions about how to handle client interactions smoothly and how to organize documents, absorbing new information and turning it into valuable experience. She wasn't slacking off because of her academic background. She simply didn't know the right direction to focus her efforts. Even her peers seemed to have a slight change of heart, starting to ask her for help or relying on her for certain tasks. From my perspective, it looked like she was gradually building smoother relationships with her colleagues. About a month later, Rachel invited me to lunch. Thanks to you, I've been able to connect with my peers and even get praised by the senior staff. As she bowed her head, thanking me, I smiled and replied, "That's great to hear. I didn't do anything special. You're the one who worked hard. No, if it weren't for your advice, I'd still be stuck. You reached out and showed concern when I needed it most. You really saved me. It felt a bit over the top, but I was genuinely happy that I could be the one to give her that push. I'm just glad it helped. Keep up the good work. I'll be rooting for you. Thank you. Also, Rachel placed a few documents on the table after finishing her meal. It was the announcement for the in-house competition. Twice a year, employees can submit proposals in any genre, on any topic, giving everyone a chance to participate. For new employees, this competition is one of their key assignments, and the results of their performance often determine their official department assignment. It's essentially a stage for them to showcase the culmination of their training. Would you be willing to join me? Me? Yes. The guidelines say that participation doesn't have to be solo. Of course, I'll handle the proposal and presentation, since it's part of my training. But I would love to get your advice. I'm not sure I'd be much help. I think there are other, more dependable seniors from different departments you could ask. So, are you saying you don't want to participate? Oh no, it's not that. I'm just saying it for your sake. This is your chance to show off all your hard work, and I don't want to interfere. It's thanks to your advice that I've changed so much. Please don't put yourself down. Put myself down, huh? Rachel used to say, I'm not good enough, too. And now, I realize I'm doing the same thing she once did. After lecturing her on not giving up, here I am, hesitating when it's my turn. That's pretty convenient of me, isn't it? As I was mulling it over, a voice interrupted from above. Well, isn't this an interesting pair? It was Theodore. We ran into each other often in the employee cafeteria. But today, he looked at us with a smug grin. Then again, maybe it's not that surprising. You two losers are a perfect match. His words made me bristle. I've been ridiculed by him countless times, so it's nothing new. But dragging Rachel into it was a different story. It's fine if you insult me, but saying that about Rachel as her superior isn't appropriate. You should think twice before demotivating a new employee like that. You're in management, after all. The words I'd been holding back for so long finally spilled out, and Theodore's face immediately twisted in anger. What? A nobody like you, talking back to me? What gives you the right? If someone's useless, I'll call them useless. It's the truth, isn't it? I'm just saying, you could find a better way to say it. You don't even try to see how hard she's working. Shut up. You, of all people, don't get to lecture me. His outburst silenced the entire cafeteria, and all eyes turned toward us. Realizing he was the center of attention, Theodore clicked his tongue and stormed off. As the noise of the cafeteria gradually returned, Rachel bowed her head to me. Thank you for standing up for me. Don't worry about it. I just said what I thought. You keep doing your best, just like always. I will. But why is Theodore so harsh? I don't mean that being strict is wrong, but Rachel struggled to find the right words. I could tell she wanted to say something about Theodore's bias against people with less prestigious academic backgrounds or those he deemed unworthy. Well, I guess it's true I'm not the most capable person. From his point of view, I must be full of flaws, so I'm probably just a nuisance to him. That's not true. You've been the one looking out for me the most since I joined. You don't have any flaws in my eyes. Thank you, Rachel. You're kind. It makes me so mad. I hate hearing people talk about you like that. She clenched the documents in her hand tightly. Please. Let's enter the competition together. I want to prove them wrong, the ones calling us useless. I was taken aback by her determination. With such a passionate junior looking to me for support, I couldn't just brush her off. All right, I'll help you as much as I can. Let's give it our best shot. Yes. Thank you so much. From that moment, I worked alongside Rachel, supporting her as we prepared for the competition together. The task that new employees are expected to present in the competition is the development of a new project proposal. I gathered the results of past competitions, along with successful projects and products, and handed them over to Rachel. She meticulously reviewed them to see if her own ideas would be a good fit for the company. I may not have much ambition or any standout skills, but I do have experience. I supervised the material she prepared, offered corrections and advice, and even helped her practice for the presentation. Other new employees were also working hard with the support of their respective mentors. Of course, regular employees, myself included, were also preparing for the competition while managing our daily tasks. Rachel frequently stayed late into the night, exhausted but never complaining or showing signs of weakness. She was determined, focusing all her energy on the competition. Seeing her dedication, I did everything I could to support her. But there was always someone ready to undermine our efforts. It was Theodore. No matter how hard you try, the result will be a disaster. As we were in the middle of our meeting, Theodore approached us. He was already wearing a smug, victorious grin as he looked down on us. I'm participating in the competition as well. It's a shame you two have to compete against my proposal. No matter how much effort you put in, you'll never even come close to mine. Before Rachel could respond, I stepped forward. The judges, not you, will decide the outcome. Insulting us won't get you anywhere. What? Do you even realize your situation? A loser with a low education level and a graduate from a third-rate university are foolish enough to compete against me. You'd be better off withdrawing. We're not withdrawing. This is Rachel's assignment, after all. And if anything, your attitude has only fueled our motivation. Right, Rachel? With a smile, she nodded enthusiastically. Theodore's taunts didn't affect us. We knew how hard we were working and how good our proposal was. We had no reason to care about the sneers from someone who had no idea what we were doing. Pathetic losers who don't know when to quit. You'll regret it later, acting all tough now. Theodore muttered under his breath as he walked out into the hallway. I hope that's the last we hear from him. Travis, thank you again. I'll work even harder to make sure we beat Theodore. That's the spirit. In reality, I wasn't sure if we could beat someone as intelligent and experienced as Theodore, especially given his position as a department head. But the result wasn't what mattered most to Rachel. Learning how to develop a proposal, present it effectively, and be inspired by others. These experiences will help her grow and contribute to her future success. And when that happens, it will be her true victory. Oh, by the way, Rachel, about this calculation here. Pushing thoughts of Theodore aside, I resumed our meeting. Finally, the day of the competition arrived. It was held in the large conference room from the early morning. Rachel was the last of the new employees to present. Each participant had 10 minutes, and everyone's presentations were impressive, showcasing their hard work and preparation. Though Rachel was visibly nervous, I was confident that after all the practice, she would be fine. Her name was called, and she walked up to the stage, albeit a bit awkwardly, while I sat at the laptop below, ready to control the slides. My role was to change the visuals on the screen in sync with her presentation. As she raised the final set of printed materials we had prepared just the night before, her eyes widened in shock. She started flipping through the pages rapidly, as if she was seeing them for the first time. The presentation still hadn't started, and the employees were beginning to look concerned. "Rachel, what's wrong?" I whispered quietly. She snapped out of her daze and glanced at me. "The data in the materials is..." "The data?" I quickly opened the document in front of me and scanned through it as well. As I scanned through the documents, the sales figures and forecast numbers were completely different from what I remembered. "What is this?" Just to be sure, I checked the presentation materials that were meant to be projected on the screen. The numbers were off there too. Had we failed to save the data correctly? Was it a mistaken input, or maybe a system error? No, now wasn't the time to figure out why. I quickly opened my own folder. While we didn't have the finalized presentation data, I still had the raw data files where the original calculations had been made. It wasn't the presentation version, but the foundational data was there. However, it was just a long list of numbers in groups, unprocessed and without any proper formatting. Columns of 6-digit numbers, grouped in various ways, filled the screen. "What's going on? Are you not ready?" The training supervisor couldn't stay silent any longer and called out to Rachel. Other employees began murmuring as well. The data, it's wrong." "The data? Didn't you check it beforehand?" "No." "Do you have a backup?" "No." "I don't," Rachel answered honestly, and a collective sigh rippled through the room. Based on what they just heard, it was easy to assume she hadn't prepared properly. It might seem like an unbelievable mistake, but this is exactly when a mentor or supervisor should step in with advice, saying something like, "Make sure to be prepared next time." I couldn't understand why everyone was acting so exasperated. Then again, I was partly to blame for not checking things myself. Instead of focusing on my own tasks right before the presentation, I should have been there to help her. So now, it's on me to fix this. There are only 5 minutes left. How could you make such a basic mistake? You can't keep acting like you're still in school. Theodore's harsh voice echoed through the room, causing Rachel to shrink in fear. This is a waste of time. Just stop already. With that, everyone started flipping to the next presentation in their materials. Rachel, now completely dejected, was holding back tears. This couldn't be how things ended. I stood up. Wait. 5 minutes is more than enough, I announced. I grabbed the laptop containing the original data and stood next to Rachel. Then, I pulled a whiteboard from the side of the room. Leave it to me. Let's present together. I'll calculate the data and explain it as we go. Everyone, we apologize for the delay. Due to some data issues, we'll be presenting using this whiteboard. I gave Rachel a reassuring look, and she nodded, quickly picking out the key points she needed to cover within the remaining time. Meanwhile, I glanced at the numbers on the screen. These weren't simple addition or subtraction calculations. There was no time to enter formulas into Excel. Mental math would be faster. As soon as we got to the data portion, I stepped in and began writing numbers on the whiteboard. Here's the sales through last year, the expected projections, and the satisfaction rates for our orders. I quickly summarized the key numbers, calculating in my head and jotting them down on the board. My handwriting wasn't the best, but I hoped they'd overlook that. As Rachel mentioned earlier, we considered the requests to increase the types of printing paper. After comparing the prices of 30 different types and analyzing the difference in sales revenue, we found that, hey, is Travis doing mental math right now? No way. Calculating those numbers instantly is impossible, right? But he's looking at the screen and writing down the numbers as he goes. I could hear the murmurs around me, but I was calm. These calculations were simple for me. And that's the basis of our data. Rachel, I'll leave the closing to you. Yes. I see great potential in this project, and it's something that can be accomplished with everyone's combined efforts. For example, Samuel, who is skilled in languages and holds certifications, could contribute greatly to the translation service aspect. Me? Samuel was caught off guard, surprised to hear his name mentioned. Yvonne has an incredible talent for design, and I believe she could greatly help in creating templates for posters. Me? Rachel went on to explain which colleagues' skills could help bring her project to life and how their strengths aligned with the proposal. She had clearly observed those around her, recognizing their strengths and seeing the good in people. And she had a clear vision of how to utilize those strengths to bring her ideas to life. She outlined her case, presenting it confidently within the limited time. That concludes our presentation. Thank you for your attention. As Rachel and I bowed, the applause we received was louder and more heartfelt than before. The room erupted with energy, and Rachel looked shocked by the reaction. I, on the other hand, had expected it, but I kept my thoughts to myself and simply told her, "Good job." After all the new employees finished their presentations, it was time for the competition among the existing staff. Theodore went first, presenting a proposal that, while a bit far-fetched, was profit-driven and typical of him. It wasn't bad. Under normal circumstances, his plan would likely have been chosen. However, during the final evaluations, the executives decided that they wanted to further refine Rachel's proposal. Rachel's expression was one of disbelief, while her peers congratulated her. It's rare for someone to achieve such a result in their first competition. The other employees would surely see her in a new light now. But just as the celebratory mood was settling in, Theodore shattered it. "This is ridiculous. How could a rookie's dumb proposal get approved?" Theodore stood up, raising his voice. Everyone froze, staring at him. The whole data failure was just staged. There's no way anyone could do those calculations that fast. It's all a sham. A fraud. It's absurd that these two idiots were chosen. He pointed directly at the executives, accusing them of making the wrong decision. And anyway, Travis here didn't even graduate from a regular high school, he's from an online high school. He's incompetent. There's no way someone like him could do those calculations instantly. Theodore's argument was nonsensical, but it was clear he was trying to discredit me in order to push his own agenda. I sighed, ready to respond and dismantle his baseless claims, but before I could, Rachel stood up. Travis isn't incompetent. In fact, he's the smartest, most capable person in this company. I was shocked. I never expected her to speak up for me like that. What? There's no way Travis is capable. You're just trying to defend someone who's been nice to you. Excuse me, but may I ask, Theodore, what's your IQ? My IQ? Have you ever had it measured? I haven't either. The average IQ of a Japanese person is around 112, but Travis's IQ is far above that. I've heard it's 200. I've seen the certification myself. 200. That's impossible. He's just making that up. Theodore. It was Kevin, our department head, who had remained silent until now, speaking in a calm voice. What Rachel said is true. I saw Travis's certification when I interviewed him. So, it's true. Yes, my IQ is indeed 200. From a young age, I was ahead of my peers in both language and math, a genius, they said. I was often called a prodigy, praised for my abilities. I was even reading English before starting elementary school, something that was unheard of for kids my age. Had I been raised abroad, I might have skipped grades and entered college early, but as a child, I found everything around me dull and uninspiring. School lessons were completely meaningless to me. I had already been studying high school level material on my own, and my classmates seemed immature, with nothing in common to talk about. I wanted someone to discuss recent economic trends, global affairs, or space engineering, things I was genuinely interested in. But all they cared about was playing tag or card games. Frankly, I was disgusted. Naturally, I didn't make any friends. If no one could reach my level, then being around them was pointless. With that mindset, I moved on to middle school. And there, too, I found myself isolated. I thought that by middle school, people would recognize my talent and try to keep up with me. But their level remained low, or so I believed. Until one day, I had a realization. Sure, I might be smarter than most. But emotionally, I was no more mature than they were. My attitude of looking down on others had pushed people away. Why would anyone want to be friends with someone like that? There was another boy in my class who was bright, not as much as me, but still one of the top students, and he was friendly with everyone. The problem wasn't them. It was my warped personality. Still, even after realizing that, I didn't feel the need to make friends. Being around people who couldn't engage with me on the same intellectual level only caused frustration. I grew tired of interacting with others and decided not to attend the prestigious private school I had been accepted to. School was bound to be boring no matter where I went. I eventually stopped leaving the house altogether, but my parents gently encouraged me, saying that at the very least, graduating from high school would be beneficial for my future. They were right, I couldn't continue living aimlessly. I could tell how worried they were, so I reluctantly enrolled in a nearby correspondence high school. At that school, many students worked during the day and attended classes at night. They were all working hard to earn money during the day. Some were saving up for their dreams. Others worked to support their families. Some had health issues that prevented them from attending regular schools. I met people from all walks of life, with different backgrounds and values. Surrounded by people like that, I came to realize that I was just someone who was smart. I couldn't do household chores, and I had no dreams. I had no one I wanted to cherish, and no special skills. I was just like everyone else. While I could do things they couldn't, there were many things they could do that I couldn't. My IQ score of 200, which I earned in middle school, was just one part of who I was. Finally, my thinking began to mature, and I started connecting with my classmates. I had worried about whether I could even hold a conversation with them, but the truth was, I was just a smart kid who lacked real-life experience. I was shocked when I realized I couldn't keep up with the conversations of people who actually had jobs. And it made me realize that I wasn't any different from everyone else, leading me to regret my past attitude. After high school, I joined this company, vowing never to boast about my IQ again. I submitted my IQ certification during the company interview as part of the qualifications, but there was no need to mention it to other employees. I'm just smart. Showing off wouldn't bring me any benefit. I didn't want to make the same mistake as in my school days, looking down on others and isolating myself. So, I limited how much I revealed of my abilities. Being merely smart, I never stood out at the company, and I was fine with that. But as I began mentoring Rachel, I slowly started to embrace my individuality again. Because she made an effort to understand my opinions and way of thinking, meeting me halfway. Even when I used my abilities, I knew there was someone by my side. That fact gave me confidence. During one of our casual conversations, Rachel found out about my IQ score, but she treated me no differently. You've mocked Travis over and over again, but the truth is, he's the most capable person here. Please stop making derogatory remarks about him. Rachel's face turned bright red from embarrassment after her bold statement. What did you say? A rookie like you, being so arrogant. And furthermore, Rachel interrupted Theodore's words. My presentation data. I'm certain the numbers were correct until yesterday. Travis checked them as well. So, I believe someone intentionally altered the data. And if I may be so bold, I think that someone was you, Theodore. The room buzzed with whispers. Theodore slammed his fist on the table, his anger evident. Do you even realize what you're saying? Trying to pin your mistake on me? I've never seen someone so foolish. I've seen you tampering with other people's materials multiple times. What? I was afraid to speak up before. I worried I might have been mistaken, and I didn't want to make things worse for myself. But this time, I'm the one affected, so I'm speaking out. Theodore's temples were bulging with anger, or so it seemed, until he suddenly began acting nervous and fidgety. Where's your proof? If you're lying, I'll sue you for defamation. Unfortunately, I don't have past evidence, but I believe the data was altered this morning. We can ask the IT department to check the usage and access logs, and they should confirm it. Kevin. Fire her immediately for such outrageous claims. She's a disgrace to this company. Theodore, sit down. Rachel, you too. Kevin's calm voice brought both of them to their seats. Theodore opened and closed his mouth like he had more to say, but no words came out. As for Rachel's accusation, we'll have IT verify it. However, it's a fact that Rachel's proposal outperformed yours, Theodore. The competition is over. Everyone, return to your work. With that decisive command, people began to gather their things and leave the conference room. Theodore remained seated, slumped over. Half a day later, the IT department reported their findings. As expected, there was a record of Theodore accessing Rachel's data. Additionally, there were traces of him accessing another presenter's data. Fortunately, the individuals noticed just before their presentation, so it didn't disrupt their work. With no way to deny his actions, Theodore was demoted to a regular employee but quickly chose to resign. He was also ordered to pay damages to the company. A former colleague who had been close to Theodore told me that he had been under immense pressure. Graduating from a prestigious university and becoming a manager at a young age had placed heavy expectations on him from family and friends. He had confided during a drinking session that the only way to survive in the company was to bring others down. In a way, Theodore reminded me of my younger self. I couldn't help but feel a bit of sympathy for him, hoping he would reflect on his actions and recover. On the other hand, Rachel's proposal was officially adopted by the company, and I was appointed as the project leader to bring it to life. Rachel's peers had fully accepted her by now, and I often saw her having lunch or drinks with them. Just as she had seen the strengths in others, now the people around her were starting to recognize her talents. About a year later, the new project was a resounding success. Rachel grew tremendously, becoming someone everyone around her had high expectations for. She took on new projects and delivered impressive results, eventually becoming known as the fastest rising employee among her peers. Though she humbly credited her success to the support of others, it was undoubtedly her own ability that led to her achievements. Even now, she graciously seeks my advice. She asked me how to navigate her role while also taking on management responsibilities. By then, I had already been promoted to department head, so she sought my advice. As I continued supporting Rachel, I gradually learned to fully utilize my own abilities at work. These days, I no longer look down on those who struggle. Instead, I delegate tasks I can't handle and ensure the company runs smoothly with a balanced approach. Those in leadership positions will naturally attract envy, but remember, they aren't your enemies. Try to understand others' perspectives and become someone who can meet them halfway. I'm working on that too, I told her, reflecting on my own life experiences. Recognizing others and accepting yourself. It sounds simple but is incredibly difficult to do. However, once you can do that, the collective energy of each individual can become a force that achieves far more than any one person could alone. I wish I could tell my younger self that I couldn't do everything alone. But it was because of those past mistakes that I've grown into who I am today. I believe that nothing in life is wasted. To make the rest of my life more meaningful, I want to live alongside others and find happiness together with them. That is my goal now.